We put it in Dropbox so Jay can have it.
I got it all. I got it all.
My
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, this is Adventure Building Authority, one of my sponsors.
I'm
My
going to do a
first
quick
sponsor.
test here. Yeah, it works. Yeah.
My first sponsor. They
I
have
haven't
a
done it. That works.
Kickstarter running right now. They got some new Euro buildings. I'm going to run a second ad for them. Yeah. They've been around since 2000. Really nice stuff. It's all resin too. It's not. This is not 3D print. It's resin cast. I love 3D print too. Don't get me wrong. They have a whole bunch of doing. What's up, Dragon? Good to see you. Starting to get rolling here.
What's your dog's name?
Mimi?
Mimi. He looks like a Mimi.
Yeah, she's a Mimi. Yeah.
You're not getting the crunchy from my goldfish, are you?
Nope.
You're good, man.
Oh, I thought for a moment you had a goldfish in a bowl somewhere or something.
Oh,
I'm like, what is that goldfish eating?
Sounds good.
Goldfish. Yeah.
Glad to hear the sounds
Then,
good.
then it's
Yeah, I remember I learned that joke in West Wing when they had that joke about goldfish in West Wing. That's when I understood it. Yeah.
Man, that goldfish thing. Ugh.
I never.
No, I was not
goldfish
one to be a goldfish swallower myself.
I'm like enamored by this commercial. Those are cool dice.
Yeah, they're Titan dice, or as Anna or everyone else calls them, my fumbling dice, because that's all I do with mine.
Exactly, you
I roll
fumble
once
so bad with
Titan.
yours.
I'm giving 2 sets of Titan dice. We're giving away tomorrow night during the fundraiser. So
I'm still surprised that they sponsor your show because you roll so bad with them, so they can be good for
that's a good point, Anna.
advertising. Yeah, advertising. So yeah.
They're cool looking. I like how they're kind of rugged on the edges too.
Yeah, they're really.
They're huge, Ted. They're really big.
Yeah, and they have awesome names like Sparkle Vomit.
Yes.
Sparkle
Oculus,
Vomit.
Calliope, which I finally can say right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I got two of those sets tomorrow night, plus some other things from Troller Games. Chuck has said he's stepping up big time for the fundraiser and for tonight and for tomorrow, just during the stream. So tonight we have giveaways from both Trollord and Frog Guy Games.
Woo!
Peck Steps. Yeah, we have $25 gift certificates for both. Yes. So there you go. Peck's kind of stepped up there.
Oh, is that out there? Narrated. Please do Aussie maps. Is that already spread? All I can say is that it's not confirmed yet. I given them the time frame that I can do it, and I haven't heard back from them. That's all I know. So I might do Oz maps, or that might be no Oz maps. I don't know yet.
And I have no idea what you're talking about. So
It's the Kickstarter, the Wizard of Oz role-playing game. The Kickstarter done by Double Critical or what the publishing company came, and someone apparently floated my name because the Kickstarter was that they had maps for one thing, and so the company reached out to me, so I responded and say I can start working on it next spring. And I don't know if they are like a lot of publishers. They want them done in 3 weeks, or they can actually wait 6 months to have them to start.
No, I'm telling myself. All right, there it goes. All right, don't type destroy. I'm testing stuff because the last shout out didn't work. There it goes. All right. I was like, please no. Like for an hour, my shout out stopped last night during our D&D game last night. I was like, what's going on here? So this is Ted. This is Gamescape. This is one of my 3D sponsors. So
wow, that's crazy. Can you paint all this stuff?
What's that?
He has a special guy for that.
Yeah, I have a special guy. I'm not the crafter. That's Bill, the master crafter. I am the DM. And how do I say this nicely about my guys? I'm the brains behind the operation. Bill's the artistic end of it. I got you, Shift. I got you on the VIP badge for 2 weeks. So here's the second 3D company coming up here. This is Infinite Dimensions Games, and their stuff is monstrous. I'm talking about. Wait till you see the size of this stuff.
Yep. Thank you, Narrated Fan, for mentioning my name.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Lead to something interesting. So, yep. Thank you.
arena we're gonna have for my con coming up. Yeah.
Wow. Ooh, that's nice. Wow.
Yeah, they're 25, 28 millimeters. So look at this. I mean, they're huge. They're just so big. It's just so disgustingly huge. Yeah.
So much detail.
Yeah. This is the next generation of what's coming out with 3D printers. So.
It takes weeks and months to do that. So
yeah, the keep I showed you that we played on Thursday, that took 28 days with 4 3D printers running at the same time to print it in pieces, and that took my guy another 2 months to get it together.
Yeah, it's a bit like
What's up,
Bitcoin
Chantal?
mining, but physical Bitcoin mining instead of graphic cards. You
Yeah,
need,
almost.
Rows, basements full of 3D printers.
Once it's done forever. That's the great thing. You know, we have the piece forever.
Yeah.
And it's so cost effective.
Okay. Yeah.
Beautiful.
It's just
Really
time.
beautiful.
It's just time. The next thing, the arena is we're working on that now. It's already printed after the bridge. The arena is printed, and it's going to be used during a grand melee we're going to have in October. And that's this right here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Are you not entertained?
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I just realized how absolutely old school I am. I'm like fossilized old school compared to this stuff. I would have never thought it would come to this. Like all this really incredible stuff you can do now.
Yeah, and maps are like the first eye candy, right? When you think about it, the maps are the eye candy that started it all.
Yeah.
You open up you open up an old adventure, and you're like, how do I do this? And you go, oh my gosh, look at this map of everything, you know?
Yeah.
So, all right, we got a few minutes here. I'm going to cut this, and I'm going to go to the Kickstarter for Miniature Building Authority. And that's the wrong screen. See, I went to a wrong screen, everyone. You can punish me. Oh, I missed it. You know what? I can't. You know why I can't? I can't go to that because I don't have it programmed in here. That's how dumb I am. So we'll go to a start screen, and we'll start a little early. Whoops. See, even Jay makes mistakes.
The stream is starting. I love this.
Yeah. I'm getting better with stuff, Ted. When I started, I had no idea what I was doing. It's been 3 years.
You realize I never leave the house. This is like going to like Disneyland.
Well, we've all been there. I have barely left my house in a year and a half, so we're ready. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I go out exercise every day. That's about it. So run around, hike the hills.
That's it, Select. You can make a story around the map. I mean, that's a great point, you know?
Yeah.
That's a great point. Absolutely.
Yeah.
These people are still coming on as we are, we're like 5-6 minutes early. So here we go with, there's our welcoming entry screen. Tonight, everyone, welcome to the second episode of Fantasy Mapping Show. So.
Oh, man, I have a DM mug that I need. I should have.
Yeah.
Totally forgot. Oh, you guys really dug around for my maps, didn't you? Wow.
Anna gave me Dropbox.
Well, I've been one of your first patrons, so I had a whole bunch lined up here. So yeah.
We want to pop them up. We can discuss them.
Look how professional this looks.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate this. This is fun.
It's supposed to be fun. That's that.
Yes, this is, I'll talk about this. Is stream 3 of 5 straight nights. So, hopefully I don't get divorced after this.
Are we live right now?
We're talking.
Audio.
They can hear us.
Yeah,
right?
but
You
not
can all
see
hear
us
us.
yet. Yeah, they see what you see in Zoom down there, so that's what they see. So.
It's kind of our shtick here. Just. Mike Disney!
Hello, Mike.
What's up, Mike? Great to see you on a Friday night, man. Let me hit you up with a shout out there. Good to see you, Mike. Mike's a fantasy painter and sponsored the show.
Nice.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Mapping Show. I'm J.K. Lorcazumba, and with me is great cartographers Alyssa Faden and Anna Meyer. And tonight we have a new special guest, our first guest on the show here, Ted Uram. Ted, welcome.
Hi. Well, I'm the first guest.
Yeah, because this is only the second show.
Yeah.
For the Fantasy Mapping Show. Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I feel really special.
Exactly. You're very special. Yep.
No pressure, but you're setting the bar for everything.
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So thank you for coming on. And tonight we want to start concentrating on topics. And tonight's topic was going to be dungeon mapping. And I think that's a great way to start, because that's where it really started. So Ted, why don't you give us a little background about how you got into it, what you do,
Sure.
some of your other pursuits, and hobbies, and
my life, of course, has taken a dramatic turn, and I'm doing something completely off topic. But when I was a kid, my dad was a chemical engineer, so he always had graph paper around. And I would steal the graph paper because I would try to do the maps, because I wanted to, emulate what I saw in all the modules. People don't really talk about modules anymore, but that's how I got exposed to D&D, was going into a hobby store and seeing a rack of modules, and picking one out. And I always thought it was really cool how they drew the maps. So I tried to do that on graph paper. And of course, it doesn't work out so well on graph paper, because when you draw a door, that little line is still there, that little blue line, from the graph itself, so you can't get rid of it. So, and as I got older, I just started kind of playing around and experimenting with pens and ink, and then computerized versions of maps. And yeah, it's something I do all the time now, really.
Excellent. So you just decided that, hey, this is what I'm gonna do on the side. I'm gonna just set up a Patreon and just start sharing my content. Is that kind of
pretty much? I mean, I've always been in the hobby, in and out, throughout my entire life. We mentioned kind of jokingly beforehand, but it's really true. If I get into gaming too much, I'm stuck. I'll do nothing but games, so I have to be really careful. I'm really addicted to gaming when I do that. So I have so much going on now that I just don't do it anymore. But I love to do the maps, because for me, it's with my condition, it's good to do some art where I'm looking at something, I'm thinking about it, and I'm moving my hand around all simultaneously, and that keeps my brain active. So, okay. And then, my neurologist said you should take up some kind of an art, and I said, well, I like to draw. I didn't tell him maps, because I didn't think he'd even understand what the hell I was talking about. But that's where I took it. I said, okay, if I have to do this, why not just make some cool maps? I started following everybody that's on, all you guys. I started following you and looking at what you were doing, and then Dyson and all these other people that are out there. And I was blown away by how much old school stuff there still is out there. And I love that, because when I draw a map like that one right there, it makes me feel like I'm still playing, but I'm still kind of involved in the hobby, but even though I really can't get involved in the hobby. But yeah, it's my way of kind of staying connected.
It's great to hear, because I think you may have insulated yourself, and you don't just there's a huge growing community back. Mm-hmm. As you could see, that of bloggers and streamers and old school players and 5e players, and there's just and map makers and artists. I mean, it's all out there. It's really it's come a long way. So, Alyssa, what do you think? As far as the beginnings that Ted's talking about. What are your first memories about the maps back in the old days? You got one that you remember the most?
Yeah, but the one I remember is the worst one. What are you talking about? But yeah, no, I do, because to Ted's point, I think he and I kind of had similar sort of paths. I used some pre-written stuff back in the day, but I used to like writing my own. And if you're going to write your own, you're drawing your own maps. And that's how I honestly even got started. So sure, drawing city maps is what I'm known for, but you can't escape the fact that you're drawing a dungeon at some point, or a tower or a maze. And I think one of the first ones I ever did, Do you all remember there was a computer game, Curse of the Azure Bonds? Remember that?
Sure.
Yep.
I decided I was going to bring that into my game. And I ended up replicating all of those maps. I know it was a computer game, right? But I ended up like bringing those maps. I hand drew those. Those were my first dungeon maps that I did, or they were very, very, very early on. And I actually broke them out to think about bringing them on the show. But it was so basic. I was like, oh yeah, no, I'm not doing that. They were just lines. They were just lines on a piece of paper. You know, that's where I started.
The funny thing was, we just had Jeff Grubb on the show a little while ago, and he wrote, him and his wife wrote those books, right? And for that Curse of the Azure Bonds and the Gold Box games that came out from SSI, and yeah, I mean those were. Yep. Those were the best. You should have. It's okay. I didn't show any of mine because all mine are on paper, and I'd have to scan them in.
I didn't even think of bringing some of my first maps were horrible, and I'm talking like the first maps I tried a couple of years ago, because I did them as a kid, and then I came back, and then I had my adult life, so to speak, and I didn't do any of that. And then when I got sick, I started doing more maps. But the first couple of ones I did, I remember I posted it somewhere, probably on Facebook in a group, and the first comment was, "There's so much black," in all capital letters. And I was like, oh yeah, there is. So that was my first introduction to showing other people your art. So.
Well, I looked at mine yesterday, and I actually like critiquing my own work a little bit, but I looked at one of the mazes I did, and I'm like, okay, so apparently the walls of my maze are 2 inches thick, because I've just drawn lines. I didn't actually draw walls. I just, you're just following the graph paper edge. I'm like, okay, so they could walk through these walls or something?
It's a Japanese labyrinth of paper walls.
Yes.
Well, that's where it gets like, it's not a real rendering. Like I do stippling, and this guy was dead serious too. He's asking me, I don't understand. Is that rubble? Is that supposed to be like ballast next to it, like a train track? And I said, no, it's just my style. It's just the outside of the dungeon. It's the earth around the dungeon. I don't know. It looked kind of cool when I stippled it one day, so that's why I did that. But it's not. I mean, the doors are never the right size. The boxes and the crates are never the barrels. Unless you get really, really technical about that, then that kind of pulls the fun out of it for me.
Is stippling one of your preferred techniques? And do we have an example of the stippling at all?
Oh yeah, you've seen several.
All right, so let me pop up here. First things, I'm going to switch to it real quick to the screen. I'm going to share this before Anna.
Now we're in trouble. Yep.
Here is my first memory. Everyone know what that is?
Keep on the
Borderlands. Is this
yes!
the Caves of Shkant?
No, this is B1. This is B2. The Keep on the Borderlands.
Yeah,
Keep on the Borderlands.
This is the Caves of Chaos, right? Yeah. And all the different levels of caves and the dungeons, and right back here, this G. You always knew, there's the ogre inside here.
Overcomplicated dungeon map. Yes. So it's a good example. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I actually painted this on a table permanently, like back in the 80s. We had this old fold-down table, and I painted this 1 inch equals 5 feet scale on that table out like summer break with some friends, and I flocked it and everything, so it was like a proper almost wargaming table. I remember this is the first time I've seen this map in 30 odd years or so. This is fantastic.
Yeah, and that's because it had elevation in it too, and that you're not thinking in 3 dimensions back then. It doesn't look like the Ravenloft map, which is really cool, and with that. But this this had the elevations and all, and it's hard to picture a dungeon map in 3 dimensions back when you're 11, 12 years old. Like
I cannot do that. Like I can't make things like, what do they call it, the isometric ones where it's like 3-dimensional.
Yeah,
I just have to stick 2D. But I like the blue maps like this too, because I did a little work for he's never gonna hire me again because I can't remember his name. Mark Terramino. Does that sound familiar? Anyway, but he wanted the old school blue look, and I do most of those on the computer, and they're a lot of fun because they go really quick.
Right.
But he gave me a lot of leeway too. He's like, just do this and this, and that's what I want in there, and whatever the hell you want to do. And I had a blast with them. So they're a lot of fun to do.
I've actually done a map for him as well. I've done the old school for him.
Okay.
So
how do you say his name? I forgot.
Oh, don't ask me.
You know what I'm talking about, though, right?
I do. No, I do. Hollywood actor.
Really nice
Yeah.
guy.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I got lucky enough that he asked me to do a few maps for him. But yeah, mostly that stippling stuff really just, I didn't know what to put on the outside. And I was looking at everyone else, and most people were doing the kind of hash marks that Dyson was doing, you know? And I kind of didn't want to, I wanted to kind of come up with my own thing. And it was really easy just to tap a camera. It's really easy to just tap a pen and do that. So that's why I just started playing with it.
Absolutely.
Some of them are like way saturated and overdone, but
no, but I like that. It looks natural, so to speak. It's less stylistic, but more natural, and I kind of like that. Yeah.
Anna, what
I
about
like the rugged look for sure.
Your first thoughts ever on an early map?
It was kind of funny. I started my RPG mapping career as a player, and remember back in the early old school gaming in the beginning, the DM never showed. You played. It was like you played mind. Everything was in the mind. We didn't have a map on the table.
Right.
So as a player, you drew a map and as a way to find your way back. And if the party didn't know the way back, then the DM you could starve to death somewhere or something. So so very quickly when we played, then I played with a group play. I didn't know half of them, so to speak. So someone else did the mapping, and we got lost. And so after that, I said, "Well, check the map," and I've scribbled some lines on the side, so to speak. So I can tell you, oh, we go left here and right or whatever. So that's how I started my mapping career, so to speak. So and it was very, very simple, but that was something kind of a tradition that got lost. But early days in gaming, that seems to be the norm, that you assigned one of the players to be the cartographer of the group that actually made notes in order to find your way back through the weird dungeon of everything, so to speak. So that's how
I don't want to jump ahead on our agenda, but on that point, do you think that in this era of like laying out the dungeon on the table 3D, and it looks beautiful, don't get me wrong, it looks absolutely beautiful, do you think, or what do you think we've lost in transitioning from you don't know what the dungeon is, it's a theater of the mind, and mapping it out as I go, versus it's all out here on the table in front of me? Even if the DM covers it up front, which I think you should, it gets revealed and you know it, you can see it, you can retrace your steps. Do you think anything's got lost in there, Anna?
To some degree, but I think this marks a shift in what role-playing games are, in a way, because in the early days, it was more like the DM was supposed to outwit the players to a certain degree. It was like you should come up with all these kind of tricky questions and a lot of stuff in order to trick the players. And if the players weren't smart enough to figure it out, their character died, so to speak. That was part of really early school. If you see examples and read and stuff, that was an essential part of the game. That has now shifted. Now it's something that now it's how smart your character is. You're not supposed to outsmart the players. It's the character. So you're more like, so in that way, the focus of the game has shifted, so to speak. It's the character's experience that have come much more in center. And we as players are supposed to sit and socialize and interact and have fun and so on. It's not DMs who are supposed to outwit the players in the same way, if you read how the game is written, so to speak. So that focus have changed, and with that goes the map too, because now you're supposed to have these cool things so you as a player can see and experience what your character is seeing and experiencing. And to me, I think that's a plus. But the dimension got lost, but I think that was kind of a deliberate shift in the game, how the game is actually played. And there's still some, I'm sure there's still groups out there that when I played with Jim Ward, like, was it a year or 2 years ago, I think, and he played old school that way, really old school that way. And that game has a certain charm to it. You just have to be prepared, as if you're a new school game player or someone who started playing now, that could be very weird in the beginning, so to speak, when the DM challenge you as a player to understand something or get the wits to ask the right question or something like that. So
I don't want to harp on this for me, but
please.
Here's my graph paper for Underground. It's called Dwarven Forge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, just because of the play style and the presentation and but that's so we don't. The graph paper it serves a purpose now. But my style's unique. 99.9% of all the other streamers out there are using VTTs in Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds. That they need the map still. The map is hugely important.
But it ties into, meaning that was one of the topics that I wanted to say. It's the types of dungeon maps you can have, so to speak. One is the DM's reference map. That was probably the oldest dungeon map, that the map that the DM either found in a module or he drew up before the game if it was
had numbers for the rooms and everything.
Exactly. It was simple, but it was still a map that was very, in the beginning, it was very engineer-like. And you can tell that when you read the description of rooms. They always started with like, oh, the room is 10 by 15 feet and it's 6 feet in the ceiling and stuff like that. And then at the end of the description, there's a huge ogre's trying to kill you. and to me, it's always weird. That must have been an engineer who wrote that, because if you think from a character perspective, if there is an ogre trying to kill you, the character would never even think about how big the room is behind. So these descriptions were an engineer or an architect's view and not the adventurer's view. And to me, that was kind of weird. But that was how old school games were, and that was so the person who made the drawings could go. But so you have the one type of map that they started with was the DM's reference map. That was one of them. And then you had the players note, that the players that drew notes. That's another type of dungeon map. And then you have a type that came in, I think, very early, because there were very soon, we and others, they were these kind of pre-printed on cardboard with nice prints on it, or you start heavy game mats where you had Sharpies, or you have a big piece of paper or something. So you start drawing instead of miniatures. So you have like a dungeon map that you draw or print or use some sort of cardboard system or something, and you put on the table. And then that's the third type, so to speak. And today that has been digitally replaced with VTT maps that filled that purpose, to put your miniatures, for whether they're real miniatures or some. And then you have real terrain, so to speak. Those are what I see the types. And then there are subtypes that we come into later in the show, I think. On each of them, so to speak, there are subtypes.
So why don't we go and bounce around between everyone's submissions here on dungeon maps and talk about
we have one we should do now, I think. It's the very first one, because I went through, I Googled and
I found the first map.
Yeah, I found the first two actually, and put them in here because there's a little bit of contest. The very first one was a DM published in, let's see here, it's from 1974. It's a D&D Dungeons & Dragons Volume 3, the Underworld and Wilderness Adventure Supplement from 1974. Had a map that I think is
that
done
in the dungeon subfolder that you gave me?
Yep, it's in there. And
is it Tiles in Play 1 or 2?
No, it's OD&D Underworld Wilderness Adventure paid for.
Oh, there it is.
It's in dungeon maps. Yep.
Okay. It's
and you have the title. You have the title. Underworld Wilderness.
Okay.
You have the cover and the two other maps that were in there. So
it's somehow. Yeah. All right. I see it now. There we go. This one.
Yeah, that one.
Wow.
And the reason I think it's a Gary Gygax is because there is.
You think this is a Gary Gygax, huh?
I think so, because I have a reproduction of one of his maps from, now I can't find it. Damn, I should have found it for this episode. For his Castle Greyhawk, that some of the dungeon maps that he did for Castle Greyhawk, they actually did some reproductions of it. And Rob Coons gave me one of these reproductions, and from the style, I can tell that it looks very similar, so to speak. But that's just judging from the looks. It might be that everybody used the same style.
So you think this is the first? Well,
this is the first oldest published dungeon map by most standards. Yeah.
Note one thing: there was no scale on here. You don't know.
Yeah.
Exactly. 10 feet wide corridors. Right?
Yeah. So it's kind of weird.
Not showing.
And there's a little bit of there's no scale, but there's a little bit of
there's a lot of good old classics on here. And also diagonal hallways, I guess, because this is not done on graph paper and it's done on plain paper. Diagonal hallways were a no-no back in the day because of the graph paper, right? You always had to do those square corners.
But wasn't this played using more like miniature rules where you actually used inch for movement rather than 5 feet squares? So that's why diagonal movement is not an issue.
It's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
So
Nice.
that is, and there was also a side view. If you go to the next image, there is a side view in that.
And which one was that, Anna?
That's the last one, Underwood, the side view, the OD&D Underworld and Wilderness Adventure side view.
All I have, I only have one that says OD&D Wilderness and Adventure.
Oh,
P4.
you haven't synced it lately because I put them in earlier today. So there you got it.
Oh, Anna,
yeah. Well, hang on a second. We can fix it.
Oh my gosh!
While I was doing that, go back to the map because I want to ask Ted a couple of questions. I want to give him an opportunity to talk here. Yeah.
Sure.
So Ted, while you're drawing dungeon maps nowadays, and obviously there's been a big evolution, I think, in cartography and the way we think, as there has been in writing. Do you? A couple of things I see on this: diagonal corridors where there doesn't really need to be, but also 2 corridors because one's not enough. When you're drawing dungeon maps nowadays, do you think about the construction or the architecture of it at all, or do you just go for fun?
It's all when I'm drawing them, I'm not really thinking about the function so much as the artistry portion of it. It's not that I'm some great artist. It's just I like to kind of experience the map as it's coming out of me. And if I know that I need to do certain things with a dungeon, and I do town maps and things like that, but I'm best at dungeons. It just kind of comes to me intuitively because I've drawn so many of them. And but as far as if it seems to somehow even have a linear structure to the map, I don't care if it looks good and if it makes a nice piece of art. So when I'm drawing maps for a module or someone who's doing a Kickstarter or something like that, it's totally different. Because I've got to adhere to this room is this room does this, and I have to make everything work. So that's a little bit more challenging. But for my own maps, I just like to, it's like I'm creating a piece of art.
Very, very cool. I got it now, Anna.
Okay, there was one other that you didn't get, but it's coming later. So
okay. Yeah. So this reminds me a lot of Castle Greyhawk, right?
Yes, and it's interesting because that side view is not that common. I put it in there because it's a rare thing that people have think about the 3-dimensional aspect of dungeon maps.
I remember one module I had. It was the Lost City, I think it was.
Lost City's like that, yeah. Lost City, I1. Yep.
The Acropolis had it too.
Okay,
although that's a little bit more recent. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that had a side view.
Excellent. Oh, Alyssa, hold on one second here. I think I have. Oh my gosh, where is it? Is there something of yours in here?
There is something of mine in there. Yeah.
There you go. Right?
Yeah.
All right. I was like, oh my gosh, it's Alyssa map. I knew exactly.
And actually, I think
yes,
the main author on that is Jack Cole, and that's my husband.
Oh, awesome! I wanted to get a city. It's a town source book, and yep.
Yeah, the NPCs are all him. If I'm remembering the right one.
This one says authors Rihanna Louvre, Anthony Pryor, Matt Finch on this one.
Then I am smoking crack. He worked on a different one apparently.
But still,
I don't know which one he did, which makes me terrible.
It's very cool.
No, maybe he edited it. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. But
can I toss something in real quick? I just wanted to mention it when you were talking, Anna, about what the way we used to do it old school, where you had the maps and it was really, they used to call them pencil and paper games too, because that's all you had, and really there wasn't a lot of anything out there. But I used to do this weird thing that I realized that no one else does. And when I tried to do it in other gaming groups, they thought I was really weird. But as the DM, I used to there'd be a discussion period. And since there wasn't anything to see, there really wasn't a map except the map that I was going off of. So they were immersed in the dungeons. I used to tell them it's okay, from here on in, anything you say can be heard in the dungeon. And what they would do is everybody started to get this feeling like they were there, you know. It was really cool to do. But you were talking about all the advances that we have. Everything that's out there is beautiful. Everything you've shown is gorgeous. But there's something wicked cool about having nothing except the idea for the story, you know, dice, of course, some way to scribble a map so you don't get lost, and people immersed in the story. That was so fun.
The great thing about D&D is it's evolved into whatever you want to make it at this point, you know, with additions and with types of play. You know, there's categorized, there's theater of the mind, there's VTT, there's mini terrain, there's just all different sorts of ways to play the game, and that's the great thing. And just play the old style with the maps and paper and pencil. There's nothing wrong with that at all, absolutely. And that's a majority of a lot of people play that way, and you know.
I like that. It's like you said, it's all inclusive. I mean, everybody's got a different style that they look for. That's just something that, to me, it just reminds me of being 12 years old and 13 and playing, you know, for like 12 hours on a weekend. You know, we used to do that so much. It was a blast.
Absolutely.
Yep. And the second map, Dungeon map, was from Blackmore, the supplement.
Yes, I have that
for D&D. Yeah, it's
there. We go.
Mm-hmm. It's Blackmore, and the other cool thing is that I think is where the Umber Hulk was the first presented.
Oh, really?
Very first, yeah, because there's an illustration of an Umber Hulk that really looks cool that has been used afterwards. So I think that's when the Umber Hulk appeared at first. So
well, that's you're getting more. That's a lot more traditional than the other map.
And this is 1 year older or
right.
1 year younger, so to speak. So it's 1 year. But you see, there's a lot of diagonals in this one too. Yeah. So but you have clear defined squares and stuff that wasn't on the first one. So
can we zoom in on this? I want to see how they've done the fill.
No. Oh yeah, there you go. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Just like with pencil or something like that, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Pool of the Frog.
That looks like they dotted that all. You think so?
Not dotted. I think. Oh.
What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it's done, so to speak. So
that's a good question. How that was done? Because it's not. I don't think that's hand. That doesn't look hand drawn, does it?
No. I mean, is that pattern part of it?
No, I think the pattern is some sort of overlay or something they used, and they glued it together, and then they copied it.
Like a scratch out thing, maybe?
Yeah, or something like that. Yeah, so I think they used a lot of things on stencils, and there were various...
I like how in the edges and the corners you can see where the pen stopped. You got like ink.
All right, so...
Oh, yeah, totally, right.
David, let's see, David P. Glass says, it looks like grayscale texture. And then and now Crinisty says Letra set or similar pattern filmed.
Exactly.
Thank you very
they
much.
had that back in the day that you glued on, so to speak, to get.
It was all about the Letra set, wasn't it, back in the day?
Apex.
Yep. Because you have to realize this was supposed to be printed, so that's why they had to go to some hoops to make it look good printed.
Sure.
So yeah.
I'm glad you found these, Anna, because that's good to know.
So it's kind of cool. This is where it comes from. So if Dave Arneson did this one or not, I don't know, but it's his supplement, so to speak.
I like how it just says barracks across the entire room.
Yeah.
You don't need all the detail. Barracks, that's all you need.
Original. And we're talking mid to early 70s here with these.
It says illustrations by Dave Sutherland, Mike Bell, and Tracy.
Dave Sutherland was huge back then with illustrations back in the day.
So it might be an early Sutherland or something.
Did they give credit to the person that drew the map back then?
Not specifically. It only says illustrations by Dave Sutherland, Mike Bell, and Tracy Lesh. I think it's Lesh. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't remember seeing anyone's name for the maps in the older modules.
No, I don't think so. The cartographers, you were not very highly rated back then.
Yeah.
You knew who the artists were, but you didn't know who the cartographers were.
Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome.
But it was more engineering than art. At least looked upon like engineering than art back then.
So, Ted, I have from you one out of all these maps that Anna gave me. I have one blue one.
Okay.
Yes, and that's an interesting topic. We need to tell people who weren't around in the 80s don't realize how big of a thing this but blue maps were.
Oh yeah, it's like I actually take and I shoot with I forget what the tool is called. It's got the little dauber, the ink spot thing from older maps to keep getting the right blue. I should probably look it up to see what the actual 6 hex code is.
Yeah.
But I just love that color, it's got that weird blue color. And this one, normally I would do, this is probably one of the only ones I've done like this. Normally the blue would cover everything on the outside. But this one I was trying to do like the outline. I don't know if I like it as well, but I still like the feel of it.
Okay.
Yeah. And should we reveal the reason for blue maps?
I don't even know the reason. What is that?
Oh, there is a reason.
It
was simply because
mimeograph.
No, it was the Xerox copy machines back then. Okay. It was a piracy, anti-piracy thing, because the copy machines back then couldn't see blue. So that meant that, or they either they screwed it up. You couldn't they couldn't copy blue. So if you put it in a copy machine in the 80s, it came out all gray or it didn't work well with blue. So it was an anti-theft thing, and then people liked it. So even afterwards, when copy machines became good enough so you could steal a blue map as well as a black one or whatever color, they still came around in blue, and they're still on drive-through RPG and stuff. There's still blue map series. But the reason was an anti-theft thing. It was probably more expensive because you had to actually print it in color, so to speak, a second color. So they actually made the effort of increasing production costs just to make sure that we wouldn't make illegal copies out of it.
Yeah, didn't they just do something called spot color? It was just one color that they could choose?
Yeah, this was an example of spot color. So yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, I always liked the blue. I did not know that there was a theft piracy reason behind it, which is pretty neat.
That was the reason behind it. Yep.
Very, very cool. Here, let me go back. I'm going to use that as our background for tonight.
Okay. Yeah. It's like strike. I didn't know the name of the color, but here's a perfect example of a blue map, original blue map from B2.
And here's B1, second level. This is In Search of the Unknown.
Yep.
And this is your traditional cave. Rough-hewn nightmare, we used to call it, because you could when you're a dungeon master and back in the day, try to be descriptive about this to your players for them to do it. It never,
It kind of goes and turns.
The rough-hewn nightmare.
And that's another definition I need to ask you guys. A dungeon map, is that necessarily set underground, or would you consider a house or a building a dungeon map, or does
I call it fantasy maps? Like if I do a village, it's a fantasy map. If I do a house, if it's underground, I call it a dungeon map. Even if it's like a library that's underground. That's just me.
Interior spacing of something large scale I would say is in the dungeon map category. Especially if you have grids, 5 foot or 10 foot squares, whatever. How about you, Alyssa? What do you think on your terminology?
I tend to be with Ted on this one. I know what Anna's driving at. Like a dungeon map is like using the word dungeon, like as in scenario, encounter map. But I do tend to say dungeon is underground. If I'm drawing a castle map, I say it's a castle map. I've done tavern maps, which are also encounter maps. But I call it a tavern map at that point.
Okay.
So I tend to be a little bit more specific, I suppose.
And also because you have to realize that back in the early editions of the game, basically every adventure was taking place inside a building or inside a dungeon. That because outside the wilderness adventures were unheard of. It was in first edition AD&D was when we got the wilderness guide and the DMG and stuff. That's the first time we have stats and rules for outdoor play. In basic D&D and the early OD&D, there were no rules for outside play. Everything was supposed to happen in a dungeon, in a room. That was it.
So that came out in AD&D. That was the first. Wilderness guide?
AD&D was the first one that had real.
I'm gonna differ with you right there, Anna.
Please. Go ahead.
Judges Guild was the first. Judges Guild had the wilderness.
Other games had it, but in D&D terms, the first D&D. Real rules.
The Wilder Lands is the first I remember.
I played in Traveler back then, and Traveler was all about outdoorsy things and space and whatnot. But in D&D terms, it took a while for the outdoors to, and then we got the Wilderness Guide. That was way into first edition when we got the Wilderness Guide that really covered the forest adventures and
there's just something cool about going underground, though. It's like this hole in the ground, you said, rough.
But that was the root of the game. So the early days.
And I got one that goes beyond that. I'm going to save that for later, beyond just going
Okay.
underground, and we'll talk about that in
Yeah.
a little bit. So, all right. So you want to scroll through Alyssa? You want to pick one of yours and
exactly.
pop
Come
that
on,
up and
Alyssa.
talk about
Yeah.
that? Well, I got a bunch here as far as your dungeon maps here.
Yeah, I mean, let's stick with because we're kind of earlier in the map evolutions here.
Yeah, sure.
Let's pick one. This is my old school blue homage. Let's zoom in on that one just a little bit.
Sure.
So a couple of things for me is I did dab the blue, or I actually looked up the blue that they would print in back in the day, and I found it was too bright for me now, so I darkened it up a little bit. And it looked like maybe you had darkened yours a touch too. Your blue and my blue are very similar. I decided to do a little bit of texturing on the background.
That's cool.
A little on this, giving it cool. just give it a bit of a feel. But this was my absolute homage. I actually drew the original decades ago, black and white, and I converted it to the old school blue as part of my Patreon. Actually, recently I do an endless dungeon, and I release 2 or 3 maps a month to it. Jim Pinto was writing for this one. Ooh. And this actually, Ted. So you're talking about making maps look interesting and the artistry of it. Lord Gasumba, if I can get you to sort of scroll down towards the bottom part of the map and zoom in a little bit, I started to think about the 3D aspects of it when doing this particular layer. And I've got kind of bridges and galleys coming over the top.
That's beautiful. It's like this overlaying, configuration.
I started to imagine the players like this is very 3D. I mean, room 10 has got a bridge coming south into room 3, so to speak, which has steps coming down. So room 3, the center is like an elevated section, but there are also bridges to. So I wanted to make the dungeon interesting, not only visually, but from a player perspective.
Yeah,
right. If everything was too structured, it would just be like a federal building or something.
But you also cool. You've used mainly the old school symbols and stuff on it. It's a standard, meaning people who played old school, they know instinctively what these things are.
Are there other ones? That's the only ones I know.
There's a couple of them that I don't recognize, but a lot of them. You have the trap door. You have the pentagram and how you do doors like these. And Ted, you do the same thing. That's a standard old D&D stuff to how to do doors.
Well, I think I see a slope with the arrow.
Yeah,
and then
the secret door, the S symbol over the wall and stuff. I
love that.
And of course, when you're doing it digitally, Ted, you were talking about when you draw on grid paper. Of course, the grid is still shown behind. At least when you're doing it digitally, you can actually get rid of the grid part in the door. So my doors just look like rectangles now with no grid behind.
Well, I do that same thing. I actually don't draw on grids anymore. I just draw on paper. Right. And then I put the grid in using a ruler that has a 1/4 inch measurement at the end. So that way I just keep bringing the grid over where I need it to go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Takes a long time, but I like doing it.
Yeah.
Very, very
That's
nice.
Beautiful.
Yes. So I think Dragon's Silver Sling said this is a dwarven hold if he's not mistaken. Is that correct, Alyssa? It's called.
What I had it for back in the day, yes. And there's actually a pool of boiling water there with swinging platforms, because why the hell not? But awesome. I don't know what Jim Pinto was written for this. Jim literally finished a few days ago, and I think it just came out in drive-through this week. And I haven't read every room, so I don't know if Jim has actually made it dwarven or otherwise.
Okay.
That looks like fun. I just like that this center of the map has like this configuration of almost like satellites sticking out of it. That, I mean, if you were to make something like this and build something like this, the only reason to do that would be to be artistic, right? Because I don't see any function to it, but who cares? It looks great. It looks fantastic.
You can create any number of stories around it too, and that's the great thing about maps, right? Is that if you got a map, you can create a story.
Yep. No map, there will be no adventuring on my part, so to speak. When I run adventures, I need to have it mapped, otherwise I don't know what to do. Yeah. So the map comes first.
One
the
way
landscape needs to
or
come first.
another, Anna will have it mapped. So Anna, what about you got some interesting
you
ones
have
in here.
start the Anna 1 there. They're numbered 1 to what is it, like 9, I think. So take the
so did you put them all in today, Anna?
some of them, I moved them. They should be in the other folder because I moved them in so make it easy. You had them all in one folder, so they should be in the go to my map. Go to my folder and
give me a second here. I'm going to bring up a TED map while I do that. So
so go and get them all, but make sure you have Dropbox sync during the show because this will happen every show.
Let me go
so
to.
go into
let me see
Maps
here. I'm going to go
to.
Yeah. I'm looking for one here. How about this one for Ted?
Yeah.
There we
Can
go.
we zoom in on that a little bit?
Map.
This looks really quite lovely, Ted.
Yeah.
This is really nice.
That's where I was trying to figure out a way to show a destroyed wall that it caved in, but still for at least the DM or the GM to see the original configuration of the room. I do things a little bit differently now. I don't draw the box now around the broken parts. I just let them be broken.
Yeah.
But there's something about boulders, and I tried putting detail on the big boulders, and it just got to be too much. It looks nice when it's just white like that.
Yeah. But it's also cool because you have the shapes, but they're not purely geometric. They're like a little bit organic and natural here and there, enough to make it more kind of pleasing and look cool, so to speak. So yeah,
I'm a big fan of this one. I think, we've talked about the old school blue. I do want to acknowledge that there's something beautiful about black and white maps, that ink on paper look that I think just in ourselves, we as humans just adore. We just fall in love with it. And this is really clean execution here, Ted. I do agree that the boulders, less is more, because you've got detail going everywhere else. The grid is already sort of grabbing the eye. I love your grid, by the way. Your grid is totally organic. And those boulders are just that little bit of detail, that little bit of chef's kiss, that little bit of salt, as it were, just sprinkled on top of the steak. And I think it's a perfect right balance. You were talking about artistry before. This has that. This has that beautiful balance between white and black, and it's gorgeous, man. It's just totally gorgeous. You could frame that, putting it up on a game room wall, and it would look extremely appropriate.
I'm blown away. Thank you. A lot of this stuff that you mentioned, black and white, Dave Trampier, right? Is that how you say his last name? Tramp. So. I didn't use him as DAT or Tramp, but the original drawings that they used to do for the modules, that, I don't know what it was. The black and white spoke to me for some reason, because it was just, it like challenged you to fill in the gaps, and that's what I liked about I love doing black and white maps the most, because it reminds me of that, a book that didn't have any color pictures in it. It was all black and white, the original stuff.
There's a couple of things you've done on here that I really like, and I want to pull attention to them because you don't see it often. I like the fact that you've added a couple of boulders out in the middle of nowhere. They're just part of, it's almost like that little subtle kiss of texture. I love that. I do that myself, so I can really kind of give you a nod of acknowledgement on that. That's just fantastic. It's not just stark white. Then you got a couple of boulders here. Got a boulder.
It seems like it needed one. Yeah.
No, it looks really good. And your water. Can we zoom in on that little stream in room 7 there a little bit? I like that. It is quiet, understated, and just and it communicates.
I've tried to get too more complex, and it doesn't look right. I didn't realize this one had torch niches in it too. That's cool. I don't know if that's clear as that's what those are, but they're supposed to be torches.
That's one of the old school standards, is to have the
So thank you very much. It was a lot of fun to draw.
Did you draw that grid by hand?
Well, I used a heavy piece of paper. I can't remember. My wife does Zentangle, so she has this really good paper. And I'd start drawing the outline, but then the grid, I use it's this big long plastic ruler. I don't know the right names of these things, but it has, you can see through it. It's clear. And along the edge is a piece of metal, so you can't mess it up with when you draw. And it's a 1/4 inch increments. So I just use that to line up and wherever that grid needs to go. And then I move it over, and you can see through the measurement as you're going. So you just line it up on the next line and just keep going.
Dude, I'm a hack. That is really good work.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Thank
very,
you.
very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now that I got Anna's up, Anna won.
Okay, yeah,
Anna
take that one.
won.
And that now we're going to go back to now you get to see what my players have to suffer through. This is this
yes.
this is the way I ran my games and did my maps for
Nothing wrong with that, man.
30 over 30 years, so to speak. Up until I started playing VDT like last year. This is the way I did it. I had these tiles that you can and these are dry erase markers, and you can just add tiles and then remove and wipe it off. And I took pictures of it and just did it. So every location I came to, towns, outdoors, indoors, underground, whatever, I just drew it while we were talking, so to speak. And there's a bigger picture, but you can see the tiles. And these are the tiles. They're really expensive, but now the gaming paper I can do some he has one made in really heavy cardboard that doesn't cost that much money, and they are awesome. They're doing the same thing. Mine are old plastic that a company who got defunct that they went bust after a couple of years. They made these set that cost like $400. They were hideously expensive to have like a really big set, but I had a set with like 24 big ones or something like that. But they are fantastic. They're just awesome. They were the best gaming aid I've ever bought, so to speak. I just loved mine.
So Green Dragon.
Tactiles, thank you. Yeah, DM Samuel, thank you. Yeah, Tactiles, that's the name of it. It comes in a big cardboard box and used dry erase markers on them. They were fantastic. I bought them like 20 some years ago. I think it was over 20
That's
years
a good
ago.
argument for a theater of the mind right there, because the bare bones that you need to figure out what's happening as far as like battles and things like that. But
and
everything else you can describe.
Yeah, it could be totally improv. We could go anywhere and we could just expand as we moved in whatever direction we were going. And you just took this in that end and just wipe them and put them back on the other end, so to speak. If you had a big table.
Sandbox style, that works very well.
Yeah, exactly. It's because I never knew where my play was going, and we could have a whole city and we could just go from one end to the other. And then I just used it before I used my DSLR camera and took pictures of it for reference so I could redraw it again later, so to speak. So I had tons and tons of these pictures. So they're just taken. These are my Rel Devon Pathfinder campaign. So I think we're in Rel Devon somewhere or doing something for that campaign. So
Green Dragon 599. This is more the style I used. This is what I did for 20 years, man. 20, this is the way we did it too. I mean, we had the dry erase, the vinyl you rolled out.
Exactly. I had the vinyl before then, or paper. We had huge sheets of, I bought these conference room, huge blocks and Sharpies. That's what we did, and just threw them away and then bought a new one.
Did no one use the printed card?
I used the printed card for a while.
That would come in the boxes.
Oh yeah, I still have a blue one box full of them sitting there, and we use them, and we use these big conference notebooks or note blocks or whatever you call it, piece of paper that sits on the wall that you do the kind of the just when you just want to make notes for a group at a conference center. So I bought several of these big ones, and then we use these little cardboard things on top of them, so you could draw and use cardboard and miniature or whatever. And I had
geomorphs, the geomorphs.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I had these small cardboard bits that I could just write what monster it was on and just put them on there, so to speak. So I had tons of them in different size, from 5 by 5 feet to gargantuan. So I could just write Silver Dragon and just slap one on there and go with it, so to speak. So yeah,
it's definitely good to reminisce and just note there's nothing wrong with playing this way to this day.
And I never drew it. And these were not pre-drawn. I drew them as I described things, so to speak. So I basically just sometimes I just had an idea in my head and just drew. And I love to draw while I was talking to the players, because that kind of, it organically grew, so to speak, and you just put in more details as needed, so to speak. So player asked about what's in that room and what's over there by the wall, or what books are in that bookcase, and I just kept drawing details as
I would say go look.
So whatever.
I don't like when the game gets distilled down. That's just my preference, really. But when it becomes just almost like a game of chess where you're moving pieces and fights and nobody's in the game. That's what's great about drawing maps like this, is it pulls you into that theater of the mind.
Yep.
Yeah, it's nice.
Okay, Alyssa, we got this colored.
Yeah, they look fantastic.
Maybe the first keep I ever drew.
Okay.
Actually, this one, but it colored like in the last couple of years digitally.
Yeah.
If I'm remembering this one right, and it's a bit horsey, in parts.
No, I love this one.
This is one of my first experimentations, I guess, on two fronts.
Irish slits.
The original was first. I've got wall thickness now, and I think, obviously I come from England. I've lived in castles.
You see, this looks to me like authentic walls from an old medieval buildings, because a fortified building, and you have the staircase set inside the walls like that. That's, to me, looks genuine. It's awesome.
I think this came from, I don't know, after a school trip to a castle somewhere or something, and I noticed the freaking walls were like 10 feet thick. You step into a door and you go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
This wall is like 10 feet thick. And I had this aha moment when it came to then drawing them. And I'm like, no, I've got to draw the actual full thickness of the walls, especially when you got arrow slits on here as well. The actual bricks came later. It was originally without brick. I think colored with the brickwork, it looks good. Uncolored, just lines, less interesting.
Yeah.
I like the shadows.
Yeah, that too. It's kind of.
I love adding shadows. I really do. To my dungeon maps nowadays, as I do things, if I'm coloring something, I always add shadows now because it gives that height to everything, depth.
I did the Tower of Xenopus. That map that doesn't look so complex, but it's actually ridiculously complex. I did that with a look kind of like this with the rocks, and once you get started, you're like, uh-oh, I got to keep going now because I started, and you have to do all the walls like that, or else it looks funny. But it's a lot of fun to put in all those bricks.
No, this is I would classify this as it's a dungeon map because it's inside. It's absolutely. It's got your hex, your grids, and it's awesome.
We got a jack sighting.
What's that?
We got a jack sighting.
Oh, there you go. Yes.
Yep.
Alrighty, so let's. I'll keep on bouncing around here. We got a ton of maps here to share for everyone, and we can always go in a different direction too if we want to talk about any other topics here. Let's see. This is March. I'm trying to. There are dates on these, Ted. So I'm trying to keep these in a chronological order. This is what's this one? This one is this is a bonus map, right?
So, I drew that in like one day.
One day. Yeah. Okay.
Like it's all right. Half an hour. I felt like I wasn't putting enough on Patreon to give my patrons, so I just drew something real quick. But I
like the compass rose. Can we zoom in on that a little bit?
Sure.
Compass roses don't get enough love. And knowing that Ted is just drawing everything by hand here, look how beautifully. There's two things that I get out of this. It's definitely looks hand drawn, but in a delightful way, and it's still crisp and clean. And you get that organic hand.
This isn't hand drawn.
Oh,
I know. I have to be. I know, but I can't lie. I drew this in a Photoshop type.
Okay,
but you did draw it.
You drew it.
I guess. Well, I drew it with an electric pen, so I guess.
Well, that counts. Oh, shoot, man, don't say it doesn't count because this crap behind me was hand drawn but digitally. Don't take that away from me.
Well,
Have your whack on this.
The funny thing is I used to do just pens, and if you don't have the right kind of pens and the same kinds of inks, the same colors and the same pigments, you can see the difference, and you get like these gray blotchy areas, things like that. So I learned to draw digitally, and you're right, you're still drawing. It's the same thing. You're just doing it on a digital surface, but now I kind of marry the both.
That's the best way. That is the best way. And I know we're going to talk about tools later on the show. This kind of like, let's dip our toe into it a little bit. I found that going digital, still hand drawing, so I still have that nice hand drawn result coming out of it. I could experiment. I could take risks myself, and I think that made me a better cartographer because I could go, well, let's see if this will work out, and if it doesn't, big deal, get rid of it, start again. Do that ink on paper, your work's ruined because it didn't work out.
I kind of equate that to writing before word processing, which tells you how old I am. But they used to have, when you wrote, you wrote with typewriters, and there really wasn't a whole lot out there. And then when the first word processor, I remember typing and I'm like, I can erase this whole paragraph and just start over. That's magic, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what's great about digital drawing is, so it's not cheating. It's actually enabling you to do more, I think, and to create more.
We got a lot of people cranking in now, and the numbers going up. Just note, 2 giveaways tonight. One $25 gift certificate Frog God Games, and a $25 gift certificate to Troller. 2 giveaways. Okay, just wanted to let everyone know that. Once again, Ted, though, you've done all the detailed line work in the individual 10x10, which is unique. I just don't see that in other artists' work, right? It's really cool.
It's kind of funny. One time someone said, do you always do 5x5 and 10x10? And I said, no, not always. So one time I did a dungeon that was 8x8, just to throw everything out.
Oh my gosh.
But if you look at lumber and things like that, and I know it doesn't equate, obviously a dungeon's not made out of lumber. When you have 8-foot lengths of lumber, that's how we build things, at least in America. That's the measurement, the standard. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason you wouldn't have an 8x8 section. That would make perfect sense. But I try to do 5x5s now. I think you can get more detail in.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Anna.
Yeah, I've done 2 dungeon maps similar for commission. I did them for 2 King games, and this is it's a pie where they sell pies and stuff, mama pies something. I forgot. It's an adventure for kids, so I did 3 of them, and I put 2 of them in here because the other one wasn't that complicated. So but this one, and I must say this is cheating because I used the original map is drawn using a tool called Dungeon Fog. So it's done using a tool, and then I've taken the stuff from Dungeon Fog into Photoshop and touched it up a bit, and so but the props and the textures are from Dungeon Fog, and then I've kind of added a little bit up.
These are the maps you see all day long in Roll20.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm saying this is the kind of map when you take that someone's made, when you create your own adventure. And you put it in Roll20, not in a pre-canned adventure that you purchase, like Fantasy Grounds has. This is the map. This is the map you're seeking. This, which because it's got room. It's got room for your, images of your figures. The circles, whatever. And it's perfect. So,
this is what I spoil when I do professional maps, so to speak. This is what it needs to look like. But I don't spoil my players with this, so it will come in. Yeah, they don't get this fancy treatment, so to speak. Then it's making shit up quickly, so to speak. That for my players.
Nice. Yeah. Excellent. Very, very cool. And let me keep on bouncing back and forth here. Yeah. All right, Alyssa, look at this.
Oh, that looks beautiful.
Okay, so this was another one that I drew a while ago. Actually, this might be a Quest of Doom, actually, for Frog Guards, this one. I've got to the point where I'm beginning to blur the lines. This is a Quest of Doom for Frog Guard.
Okay.
There was a little bit of, if you zoom in, there was some experimentation on this, but also, Ted, you'll see I've got a little bit of stippling going on.
Yeah, I love it.
I was a sucker for stippling back in the day. See? And I've kind of started to pull away from it a little bit, but I loved stippling.
I like how you made each piece looks individual too. Like it's not just dots. It's like that's incredible. I love how rugged it looks, and the shading inside the walls and everything that just adds to it all.
I used to stipple almost to create shadow when it was ink on paper, and I started bringing that across sort of digitally. But you're seeing that here, and then it was colored digitally sort of after the fact,
See, I like how you have I like to do something like that too, where I'm pointing, like you can see what I'm pointing at, but there's like the black in the corners that's thick and heavy, and then it goes out to the broken stippling, and then it comes back and almost looks oily or something,
I love this look. I love this approach, like a huge amount, and it doesn't get that much love. Everyone's doing the Dyson sort of hatching type of thing.
Yeah, and I mean, he's great. He's got a great
technique. Oh, he's excellent. He really is.
It's kind of like we're an acquired taste when it comes
unique, my friend.
This,
We are unique.
So
you almost get, there's you almost get scared. It's not really scared, but I like a map to look spooky sometimes, to look like it's a little hellish, you know. And it's something that only the DM is probably ever going to see, but I think that just kind of it can add.
Well, you say that, so Anna's sort of saying I don't give this type of thing to my players. I almost feel a level of pressure myself. What I do, it's like I'm a professional cartographer. There's no way I could just put crap on the table. There's just no way I could do it. I don't have room for all of the 3D shit that Kasumba's got. So what am I going to do? So I do a map like this. I'll do a player-facing version, so no secret doors or corridors, and I print it full scale, so it takes up the table, and then I'll hide sections. So it's almost like a cheap man's version of what Kasumba's got going on.
So you got
I do that, and it costs me freaking hundreds of dollars. It probably costs me more than it costs Kasumba just to do a single print.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
that's pressure for my players right
there. My defense is that when I'm playing and running games, that's my hobby, not my job. So that's why I'm doing it kind of there. And also, since I run a sandbox, I don't know which direction the players will go. I have to have whole towns and have tons of stuff mapped. So
that's cool. You allow them to do that. You're not like
so it's more like mass production when I run for my own campaigns, and then I do touched up versions afterwards sometimes for other to give patrons and stuff, so to speak. So
these are very you got the black thickness on these, Ted.
Well, I some of these I don't like. I tried to get more. Like some of those blobs are actual digital blobs or the big ones, because I was thinking to myself, what if I did try to not stylize it so much and went more towards an Art Deco look or something? And truthfully, I don't like it as much. I think it looks a little crowded, but it's still fun to do. And it's nice to do things like this and realize I don't think I'll do it this way again. I'll do something a little bit different.
All of your dungeons and maps are unique, meaning that they're not mass produced stuff. They're all unique with their own quirks and twists and interesting little things.
No,
it does help me to do it. It's like it's therapy for me too.
This is what I like about this. Is this part is that's the area where it's tunneled, right? The river's tunneled. Right there.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that in the map. That's gives you some Underdark feel to
statue head sticking out there in the end too.
Oh yeah,
I get goofy sometimes.
To do. So how are you doing that fill between the walls where it's not completely black?
Right here,
it's black and white. I mean, what up with that? Is that a digital?
That's basically stippling. Stippling blended into a couple of different layers of black that fill up. I'm pointing again. There's a couple of different layers in thickness of black that I wanted the gradients to show and not be so perfect. And then, but this is a good example of what I can do with digital stippling, but I'm not really entirely happy with this. I think it looks too perfect, and some of the circles are too perfect.
The circle I can see at the top there.
That but the kind of looks digital. Exactly. That looks, but it's a mixture of kind of perfect geometry and artistic stippling.
Well, that's what I was trying to do. Like maybe if I this is really an experiment for me. I thought I don't know what this is going to look like. Let me try it. And I don't think it looks bad. It's just that it's fun to do, and it shows me things. This is how I get a little bit better, because I'm not afraid to kind of screw up a little bit and make something look too goofy. Like, I mean, the big black circles are ridiculous. But it gave me new knowledge. I have different ways of doing things now because I did it this way.
I think that's important though. And I want to kind of underscore that for everyone in chat. Experiment.
Yeah.
Like try something, evolve. I mean, I've evolved so much as a cartographer over the years. Mm-hmm. And Ted's saying it right here. I wanted to try something. I don't like it.
So David.
Well, I try not to copy. I just try to be inspired. And there's a lot of tons of inspiration out there. So many good cartographers. But
awesome.
Yeah, I try to kind of feel as I'm doing the art too. If that makes any sense. If I find I'm doing a map and I'm bored, it's the wrong map. I'm trying something that I probably shouldn't be doing. I've trained myself to get to that. And when I get involved and I don't think about anything else, and I'm actually thinking about, there could be some troglodytes over here hiding over here, or something. And that's in your head. And you're so hyper focused on what you're doing. That's when you have a good map.
That's really cool. So there was a question from Big Mac.
Yeah, David. That's a good question.
So and it was a great question. And Anna, this is going to go out to you as well. What do you feel about drawing or showing the direction that doors open on your maps?
I think that it should be. It's a thing that should be there, so to speak. So yeah,
okay.
It's one of these. Yeah.
The older maps used to have that one line with a kind of semicircle.
It's like architectural building drawing maps have it. So it's one of these things that we should adopt from there. I think. Yeah. So
one thing. A lot of people are really particular about doors. One time I had a guy who's like, that door is in a wall that's only 6 inches thicker. And I'm like, it's a square. I just drew a square.
But it can be that could be life and death if you need to barricade yourself and someone needs to break through in and whatever for combat and stuff. So it could be So that could be very important, so to speak. So if you want to be consistent, because if there will be a fight or something, then that door needs to open the same way next time they come by, so to speak.
It's true. Yeah.
Okay,
remind me never to play in an Anna game because I don't want to have to think about barricading anything.
Well, listen, you're playing in an Anna game. Your second level, she can throw a Death Knight at you, so you better be ready.
Damn, you
better
be
ready
quickly. Yep.
It's like playing in Skyrim with mods, and it's like, I don't care what level you are. You went into the wrong area.
Level appropriate. I can't even spell it or understand what that means. So yeah.
I've not I don't think ever done door direction arrows on any of my maps, ever.
I just never thought of it, but it's a good idea.
Yeah, I've done it a few times. I think when I could almost assume it was going to be important.
Well,
and a lot of doors I know instinctively which way they're supposed to go, so to speak. Like doors
most doors open into the room. They don't open out into a hallway. So if someone's walking, clock them.
Exactly. But then you have doors that are supposed to be defensible doors, so to speak. They open outwards. Yeah.
Arrows have a significant terminology in old school D&D, whether it was meant to or not, as one-way doors. Mm-hmm. Remember the magical one-way doors? Yeah. If you had an arrow on that door pointing out, you could only go that direction.
That's interesting. How do they work in real life, so to speak?
Yeah,
with
they don't
D&D
really,
physics. Exactly. That's
But that
I like the false doors too, where you got the square that's just half the square. That's it's a fake door that opens to a
yes.
I love the false door trap. Oh, they're one of my favorites all the time. Yeah, absolutely.
I think I don't personally want the clutter on my map. And I am old school too, where that arrow says this is one way. I think I would, if I was going to do it, I think I'd start drawing my doors open or ajar. So it was clear, there's a doorway here. This is the way it goes.
I'm going to try that.
I would try that. Mm-hmm. I've not done it, Ted, but I think I'll try.
Sounds interesting.
Big Mac is a door wedger, and that's why he wants to know. So that's his.
Oh, that's good. Yep.
You have.
But then, how would you do it if it was two-way? Right? How would you do it if it was like a swinging door? I mean,
then you make a little semicircle both ways. Yeah.
Guarantee his character has a bag of iron spikes, 250 feet of sets of rope, and a 10-foot pole. I guarantee you, he's walking around with all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. In the old school style. You got to have that pole.
10-foot pole. Every
exactly.
Character 10-foot pole.
I wonder if you could even do it stylistically, Ted, and actually draw like a door handle, but only on the side that it opens towards or something.
That is a good little trick to have.
I tried to do a door handle today, in fact, and it was on a map, and I was like, that looks weird.
Yeah, but you realize in America you have these knobs, and in the rest of the world we have real handles. We don't have little knobs. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I like the idea of the door ajar, because if I have a room with crates in it, those crates are not all straight. They're all crooked, and so it would make sense that, I can't honestly think of a lot of dungeons that I went through in the old days where you came upon a door that was like ajar. It's either closed or broken down or burned or magic door or something, that would make it interesting.
Yeah. But now we touch what I think is an interesting
the castle tower.
Yeah, and this one is, I think, a good example, because a lot of dungeons are not really functional. They're just there to give mechanically interesting obstacles for characters. Meaning you have rooms that are odd shapes and stuff just to mess with the rules and make it difficult and make it a challenge. Not because they are a suitable place for the monsters to live in or make sense from an architectural standpoint or something. They're just mechanically interesting obstacles laid out to challenge the characters with, and the players. But to me, I don't like dungeons and buildings and basements and stuff need to be either it's a natural cave and then it should have some sort of shape that comes from a natural cave, or it's a man-made thing or made by some monster and stuff, and they will make something that is useful for them for defensive purposes or for to live in or something. And that is something that is often overlooked. And the other interesting phenomena with dungeons is that they need to fit on an 8.5 by 11 so that to be printed in a book rather than have an organically natural shape, so to speak, or layout.
We always come with, and once we get into where fantasy and reality meet, and that is, this is a freaking huge tower, right? It's like cool. It's like 6 stories up. So that's Alyssa, where, like in medieval Europe, were there those just towers that were 6 straight up and that was it, nothing around? You know what I'm saying?
Tower of London.
Okay.
All right.
No, but there were. Yeah. Not every castle was a full-on sprawling.
Exactly. A lot of them were just a keep, so to speak. Yeah.
But it just okay. All right. It's just,
and a lot of the time you would start with the keep, and like walls and stuff might come later.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. I mean, to begin with, it was just the keep. I mean, in fact, I went to one in Cyprus a few years ago, and I mean, this was deep in the Crusades, and it was a keep.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have a funny story because I remember had a very heated discussion at a game convention back in Sweden with someone saying that because they drew a square castle with like a little tower in each corner and then the tiny little keep in the middle, and I say that's ridiculous, that's bullshit, they don't look like that, and so on and so forth, and blah blah blah, and so on. And then I think it was like 20 years later, I was on Crete and I saw one of these crusader forts that they built quickly. It looked exactly like that. It was square and it was towers and it was built in the 1100 something, and I felt all guilty like 20 years later. I was like, I'm so glad he's not here. And it was
I've got a similar story actually too, because one of the recent castles that I drew for Troll Games on their Castle Keeper's Guide. I drew like this sort of semi-isometric sort of view of a castle, and it's basically got a keep at the back of it, and the wall kind of meets it, and they built it at the back because the whole thing's on a cliff edge with a river below. No one's attacking it from there, right?
Yep.
And I had someone write to me and instruct me about how the castles are constructed that way and how it would be constructed. And I was like, cool story, bro. But I actually modeled it off this real life castle right here, and here's the floor plan for it. It's like, no, there's always,
it's always that one person.
Yep.
I mean, it is a fantasy world, We're talking
exactly.
Magic and flying horses.
And then we have dragons attacking and stuff, and that needs to impact castle design.
And that changes everything, right?
Yep.
This is nice. What's this?
This is another map in the series I did for Two Kings games. So this is one I'm most proud of. It's a mansion. Kind of simple mansion, but a couple of rooms and like a dining room and a kitchen and a sort of office room and hallway and an entryway and stuff. So this is a good example of what you can do in a day with Dungeon Fog and a little bit of Photoshop magic afterwards, so to speak. It's not super difficult. Anyone, if you study Dungeon Fog and Photoshop for 50 hours, you can do a map like this. It's not, and even less than that. It's a little bit of the lighting effects, and I did some photo
I was going to say the lighting is what sells this one. You got to.
So you have to. Yeah,
you
because
did a great job.
Thank you. But it's Dungeon Fog and stuff, you get 80% of it. Then you have to do the Photoshop magic to bring out the contrast and the kind of the detail and so on and so forth. So to make it really pop. So
there's even clothes in the corner here, right?
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep.
There's even food in that bowl.
Yeah, that's
the food. Yeah, and these
cool.
are props that are in the tools, so to speak. And then I've added a little bit of doodling. It's about I would say 20% of doodling myself, and 70-80% is from Dungeon Fog. And
I really
then,
like these props. These props look hand drawn.
Oh yeah, they are the props in the modern really good tools. That's what you pay for basically. You pay for the application, but you pay for the props and stuff.
Do you guys like make your own chairs and set them aside and then bring those chairs in and do I do that.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Right. So it's kind of cool. So
I almost feel like I'm cheating sometimes when I do that. And then I have to remind myself, it's like you drew that chair. It's okay. You can do that.
I didn't do it for years. And then Jack kind of one day was watching me create something and he was like, you keep these resources, right? And reuse them. And I was like, no.
Whoops.
Because it felt like cheating. It felt like cheating, but that changed everything. I was like, I should be. If I need a chair, go grab a chair, bring it in. I could always tweak it a little bit, but bring it.
I actually have a file I call my design center, and it's got different pages on it. That's like if you went and looked for chairs or for tables or crates.
Exactly.
Because they're a pain. Crates are a pain in the butt to draw. You know, if you have to do 100 of them, it'd be a lot easier just to put one in there that you drew once, and then turn it and change it, and
Yeah, and there's no fire pit in this one because it was not on the sketch. So, and that's one of the things. When you do a commission, you follow the orders, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things. And I realized it should have been, but no one thought about it. And the other problem when you do commissions, you're on a time schedule, so it needs to be done quick. So you had a week or two maybe or something like that to work on it. So you had to do it quick, and then there's always something that needs to be turned around back and forth.
I must be doing commissions for really nice people because I never get like it has to be done with
this was a little bit of last minute, so to speak, but it was they were wonderful people. So
the Two King game guys are very, very, very charming individuals.
Oh yeah, they're fantastic. They're fantastic fun. But so it was good. But we were running behind a bit. It was the whole project was a little bit in between. So
I would say the volume of work that you guys do compared to what I do is probably tenfold at least. Yeah. I don't do that much commission work.
It's up and down. Yeah.
Hey, that's mine. I remember that one.
Yeah. This is a big beast of a thing here too.
Yeah.
This is really nice.
This has a lot of ornamental stuff. Yeah.
It's a museum. I thought, why can't you have a museum? And there's a dragon in the museum,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I was watching The Mummy, the second Mummy, where they have the house with all the stuff. It looks like a really cool museum, and that got stuck in my head. So I wanted to try something like this. And people say, "Well, what's that do? What's that do?" I don't know. It just looked cool, and I put it in there. Why is there a trap there? I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
Because there's a trap. They're trying to get you.
Does it conjure the imagination? As a GM, are you beginning to imagine your players walking through this? If yes, map is working. That's what we want.
Yeah. It's like when you write too, you give the reader just enough to kind of create the story on their own, because if you do too much, then you're dictating and then it's boring. No fun.
So I will say now, I think this map is working because I want it. I want it, and I want to actually bring it into a Call of Cthulhu game. That's what I want to do. 1925 Egypt. Like little museum.
Yeah.
Maybe that thing in the center there is a dinosaur or something that they've got.
Your guess is as good as mine. There's all kinds of crap in here.
We got two questions. Mac asked, have you all read Jequaine, the Dungeon by the Alexandrian? Do they ever sketch out route flows before starting the actual maps?
No, I haven't read that.
I think we're 0 for 3 on that one, Mac. You delved deep on that question.
Exactly, you're too deep.
You're too deep on that
one. About flows, like a 5-room dungeon type of flow.
It says sketch out route flows before starting the actual maps.
But that's something that I do on cities and various designs and old designs, so to speak. I try to figure out how it works, because if I have there will be an example coming here. I both have an inn and a keep that from my latest campaign. So I always have to, so what would that building be, and from the design perspective, so to speak. I had to have a keep that needed to withstand major siege, so to speak, and how would that be designed? And I took ideas from about 10 different fortifications, medieval fortifications I've seen around Europe and in Middle East, and that I incorporated a whole bunch of features from them because I wanted a keep that was robust and could handle almost anything.
You're so fastidious. I mean, you've got like, that's awesome. I'm just like, la 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 la.
Yeah, for me it was like I wanted to keep that could withstand a siege and intrusion from almost anything. Meaning awesome. In a fantasy, yeah, because it's an isolated outpost, so it needs to be able to defend itself. So it's a safe location for the men there to guard the town. So yeah.
Dragon Silverleaf of Selene says, "Do the guests have any table-sized maps they sell in either PDF or other electronic format that we can order up?" My guess is your Patreons are loaded with that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my website has done that. And Alyssa, you have prints too that you can.
So
I've got prints. I've got obviously. I've got Teagle Manor, which is 12 feet by 12 feet.
Oh,
well, and that's actually available on Drive-Thru and I think BTT.
Wait a minute, I just got that.
Yeah,
there's the Necropolis coming out here shortly. The Frogs are going to be kickstarting that one, and that is 60 inches by 90
This Teagle Manor?
That one.
I just got it. Oh, look at that. This.
Yeah.
Oh, look, there's maps in here.
I thought you said fecal matter.
That's a different type of map.
Teagle Manor is this is a classic going way back.
We're just doing the black and white.
Yeah,
awesome. That's cool.
All right, so I got some Melissa maps right here. Oh man, look, this thing is Teagle Manor is so huge. I mean, you'll go insane running it because it's so big, right? It's a crawl through, and each room is deadlier than the next, But that's really cool. Yeah. So, I
think any of us, like on my Patreon, I mean, I'll talk for myself, Ted. I'm sure you're the same. I mean, I give my maps away every single month on Patreon.
Yep.
And if you subscribe at a certain level, you can actually get access to the archive and then just drop your pledge again.
That's about what I do. Yeah, because I do a map every week.
Yeah, and I have all my Greyhawk maps on my website. You can just go to Greyhawk content and dig into my Dropbox folders, and there's gigabytes of Greyhawk maps you can just download.
So I have linked everyone's. I have sent them all. All 3 links are in there for everyone's Patreon. All 3.
Yep.
And I'll keep on doing it all night. On that.
And I put my website link in there too, so you can go there and download Greyhawk stuff.
Because you can't bring it up, I don't think, because the map is so freaking big.
Outside
but you have a copy of the electronic Teagle. I sent that to you. That was in the Dropbox.
Oh,
but it's over 100 megabytes or something like that. Wow. And that was just a JPEG version of it. It was something like 3.5 gig as a Photoshop file.
Yeah, it's 189 megabytes, but it looks absolutely gorgeous.
Is that for general distribution, or is that for?
No, I wouldn't get general distribution because it belongs to the Frogs.
Oh, it belongs to the Frogs. Okay, because I was going to say, all right, that's.
But you can show it here. On the stream.
But if they had a copy of this, would they get it?
Oh, no. Yeah, I believe so.
Because you could.
And you know what? If they could. Yeah, they
right. So if you downloaded the digital version of this, okay, now I did the Swords and Wizardry version because I'm not a 5e guy, but if you got the 5e or the SW or the Pathfinder version, right? There's 3 versions of this. I think you get that file.
Yep.
Yeah. So there you go. So if you, and I think this was on sale. So yeah, it's a beautiful book. And I want to say I got a lot of this stuff thanks to Pex, who kind of gave me a nice little stipend gift for Frog God stuff. So I got some stuff, and paid for some of it too. And I want to see what wonderful things they have, and that's another great one. And that's it. All you gotta do is go and buy it and get the download version. And yes, of course, spending more money. Oh, Troy, stop spending money. So yeah. Troy spent on the Reaper Kickstarter and all this stuff, hundreds of dollars in a night just because we did a Reaper Bones 5 reveal. Yeah, you got to stop. It's an addiction. Yeah. So there you go.
Greyhawk Bard has a very good question here. If I've had any problem with copyright regarding Greyhawk maps, no, for 2 reasons. Yes. I think one is that you can't just copy a map from TSRs or Wizard of the Coast products and put it on your website and distribute it. That will be copyright infringement. But you can do a recreation, like derivative art, so to speak, of it, and then you so you can take their idea and make your own version of it. Then it's not a straight steal, so to speak, but it's still derivative content, and that means that it's something that Wizard of the Coast own the IP, but they have the fan creation policy or the fan creation rules that are actually very liberal, so to speak. They give you a lot of they give you that possibility that if you give away the content and don't sell it, you can actually do derivative fan art of Wizard of the Coast games, and you can do so. You can go to Wizard of the Coast website and download the fan creation policy and fan creation rules. I forgot which. You can find it under both. Google that and read that PDF and website. I think it's available both on the website itself, and you can probably download a PDF. And then you read the rules, and then you follow those rules. And they're actually fairly more liberal than most people think.
She doesn't sell Greyhawk maps. She's
exactly. I can't sell them, but I can give them away, and that's what I do, and so on. And then I have my patrons and PayPal that people actually give me money so I can produce more maps and give them away.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Is this yours, Anna?
This is Alyssa.
No, this is Alyssa.
This is the Gary Con, how to get around in Gary Con.
Yeah,
dungeon
exactly.
map.
It's awesome.
No?
It's the hotel in dungeon form. It's awesome. Yeah, it's fantastic.
So this was Gary Con 12, and this was a year when COVID hit, and the Gary Con got cancelled, which is a real shame. I actually Twitch streamed this one as I was doing it. This was actually a fun one because there's a lot of form and function here, right? This is going to go into the guest pamphlet. They need to be able to navigate around the convention using this map. Yeah. So I had to, not only did I look at previous maps that they'd done, but I had to, there's certain rooms where they have sections where they can change the shape and the dimensions of the room. So I had to get information on that, look at the actual hotel plans, because previous years had some inaccuracies or just plain wrongness. And I created basically a plan of the hotel, but like Luke's request was make it look like it's an ice dungeon, because their theme for the dungeon that year that they then write for and give away or sell was that it's an ice dragon that's in here. And so I had to make it also something where I could take the labels off, and you can actually use it as a dungeon map too. So it was it's a hotel at a convention, but it's also a dungeon. I had so much fun with this.
It's amazing. I love the depth of the cliffs, and you can see the shadows and everything in there.
Yep.
Wow.
And that really overview map you have up in the corner, that is beautiful. It's so simple, but still yet so stylistic and cool.
I wanted it to contrast with the rest of the map, and part of that it meant making it actually simple, but at the same time hand-drawn, looks nice. This is probably one of my common styles for doing dungeons now. You can see if I've got rough cave walls, I draw like the stone in the wall and then just do cracks kind of going off. Or I draw the bricks. I do the bricks of the walls. That's kind of my approach now.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
This was a lot of fun. And then the ice color just was. What's that?
Sorry, the water like around the lake there. It just.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You and I have a very similar style. I noticed that you do water in a similar way. You kind of do the outside edge. You do these little ripples on the inside. This is just a colored version
somewhere, but I think we all kind of feed off each other at some point, and then that's what's kind of cool.
Of course, exactly. We all inspire each other. Yeah. So definitely. Yeah. So, I love the layout. The general layout of this is so good.
There was a practical consideration on this one too, because it's a 2-page spread. In the middle of the brochure, there's a spine. There's a staple line. So I had to position everything so nothing critical was going to be on the folds.
Up in this
you can almost see it.
There's nothing down there that you need to know about. If you zoom in, by the way, on any of the restrooms, The guys' restrooms are all stinky, like orcs are using it.
Oh, that is awesome.
That is awesome. That
I
is
gotta find
awesome.
one. So,
Oh,
where
yeah,
are they?
I did do
front
details.
desk.
There's
There they are.
they have-
There they are.
Yeah, there they are.
Yeah, green and there you go.
Yeah.
And if you go to the left there too, there is like they have this wonderful sort of bar area. So I did a bar. If you went a little bit too far, it's
sorry,
like there's
right
the
here.
lobby.
Yeah.
So I had to get a bar in there too. So there's a little bit of detail. I can't clutter it because it's meant to be a practical map.
Yeah.
Where are my games, right? Where is the lounge?
Oh,
But I couldn't
it's so
resist.
cool.
I couldn't resist putting all the actual sort of tables and stuff in there.
Can you go over
You
that
should-
stairway on the right? Sorry, I just
I'm sorry.
that green one right there to the right. Look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Up and down.
That's giving me some ideas right there because I never thought of doing them like that.
Yep. Up and down. Yep.
Yeah,
That's
it's so
incredible.
cool. And now you should do an adventure set in this as this
Well,
dungeon,
they
so to
did.
speak.
They did that
Okay,
year.
good. Yep.
And they released it. I'm hoping that they ask me again to do next year's map. I think they will, because at least I have the floor plan done.
Yeah, then
now.
you could just then there will be another theme like lava or fire or whatever it is. And,
Exactly.
Yeah, or an
It
It was a
Underdark
huge
thingy
amount of
or something.
research.
Yeah.
Huge amount of research just to get the floor plan.
So do you have
Right.
a wireframe of this whole map that you can just pull up and then put something else
Yeah.
on top? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There would be modifications because they've got some outside buildings that they may not do next year. I don't know.
Ah, that's
and
true.
again,
Yeah.
some rooms, like in fact, just zoom into the middle right there for a moment. It's and up a little bit above the gift shop. You see the exhibition hall, and go to the right of that. There's an exhibition hall, and then there's a blue area. That blue area is a no-go zone, basically. And
Yeah.
then they have this MLB room. Well, a couple of years ago, MLB and exhibition hall were completely separate. They were just like they were not connected. In 20 whatever year it was that they didn't do it, they were gonna give you a passage through, so you could actually get from one room to the other. So they
Yeah, there are
changed-
doors there, but
they
they've never
changed the
been
rules.
open. They've always been closed when I've been there. So, but they are
Exactly.
doors, but
they
they've
were going
always
to
been
open
closed.
them up.
Ah, okay.
So next year I could use the same floor plan for sure, but they're going to change some things. Without a doubt, they're going to change
Yep.
something.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
That's awesome.
Yep. Oh,
Love
that's-
that.
Yep.
Love that discussion that we got off of just something real life world application, which is really really neat. All right, Anna. So I think we're on Anna now, right? Again.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we have some of
'cause
my
we
that
want
I
to get to
torment
some
my
tool
players.
stuff too, as we're getting into about a
Yeah,
half hour
exactly.
to go. So I'm going to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
I'm
go
gonna
to my 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. That is the same series. So,
Okay, so yeah, here's 5.
Yeah, this is what I this is the bottom of my keep. So this is what my very quick. This one is like 10-15 minutes in Photoshop, and it's just a quick and dirty Photoshop job to get the basics.
And then
So,
it goes
yeah.
to this. and
Yeah,
that's
this is in the bottom floor of an inn in Aldet, so to speak. So I just have a the background is actually just an enlarged because my area map is 5 feet per pixel, and these maps are 20 pixels per 5 feet. So I
Wow.
just take that map and size it up so that way I get where the building is supposed to be, so to speak, from the area
that's
map.
the above level, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's second level. And the
Yeah,
inn is called half roof because there is like a third of the inn is actually caved in. So they just piled rocks up there. So now
That's
it's called
awesome.
yeah. So it's called a half roof inn because it's kind of caved in the war. So they have it
And
afterwards. So
then
that's, yeah.
Let's go to Audlet Keep.
Yeah, and this is the keep that I talked a little bit about earlier, so to speak. This is the keep in, and this is the second floor. So on the outside, you actually have to go up a set of stairs,
Oh, there's level
and then
1.
they have a
that's
drawbridge, and so you go outside, and now you.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah, there you go. So on the
Oh, I
south side
see,
of the building,
yeah.
yeah, you go upstairs up to second floor because the
Right.
door in is on the second floor, and then you
that's
have that
right.
walkway
Right.
outside, and there is a drawbridge that you can actually put up against the wall from the inside, and then the door is this is a third floor, so the door is under the floor.
Okay.
It's on this next one, or I forgot. I gave you the one of the.
It's okay.
This is one of the level third. This is the fourth floor. So, but here is one thing that is rarely on Dungeons. There is a bathroom, or like an old the toilet thingy. That sticks out on the outside on the right side there.
Yeah, back here.
Yeah. So I draw these things, meaning you have a kitchen, you have somewhere to put away your trash, you have, meaning it's supposed to be a functional building. So I try to so my Dungeons and my buildings and stuff like that. I
just lost a couple things.
Yeah.
1 sec. Hold on here. I'm gonna.
No problem.
Zoom. There. I got to get my zoom back up. There we go. I hit something and I boomed the thing. So
there you go.
Let me get my map back up here. Yep. I think I exited it by accident.
We pressed the wrong button. That happens.
I always press wrong buttons here. Yeah.
So this is my quick style, so to speak. So it's basically, I have the background layer that I can color, and then I have a sketch layer, and then I have a color layer for the various things like tables and stuff. And those layers have built-in shadow effects. That way I can just doodle with my Wacom tablet real quick, and I get the shadows automatically done in, so to speak. And I have a set of pre-colors for the brown for wood and so on and so forth. And then I just doodle. So do a floor like this is 10, 15, 20 minutes and or half an hour maybe if it's a lot of doodling. So that's just to get used to it. And I use a standard scale of 20 pixels per 5 feet. That way I know what size they're in, so I can just import them into the VTT, and I know the scales, so I don't have to worry about it.
That's what you need them just for the VTT.
Yeah, exactly. For the VTT and so I had to switch to digital maps that are pre-drawn, so to speak, because that's what I would love to have a VTT that you could actually use your Wacom tablet and draw on like you used to on my tactiles. Owlbear Rodeo is the one that comes the closest to it, but they still don't, meaning they should just have the old dry erase markers. They should emulate that in a VTT, so you can use your Wacom and just draw like you would draw on the real thing. But they try to put too many stupid functions in there rather than just simulating that thing. If they'd done that, I would have been in heaven to have that. So Owlbear Rodeo is the closest. So I'm thinking about switching to Owlbear Rodeo from Fantasy Grounds just to get that effect. That way I can hand draw things.
Fantasy Grounds is the go-to because there's so much pre-packaged.
Exactly. It's so, but I don't use pre-packaged. I have no use for it. So that's why okay. Now comes Ted's.
Colored, kind of colored, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
I went crazy with this one. This is another experiment. I was trying to get a glow to it, and I'm not sure that I pulled it off, but this is basically a safe house in the middle of a sewer. So
I love
secret doors and traps.
Love sewer maps.
But yeah.
Sewers and Heartbeat, Greyhawk. I love it, man.
Yeah, I just had fun with this one, It's like, and then I was trying to figure out how to do it's actually the first sewer map I've done. I was trying to figure out how to do the trough that would go down the center where all the stuff goes,
Right.
And but I like the glow I got to it, truthfully.
Okay.
Like it looks a little bit interesting. It was fun to play with.
Lots of pit traps in this area here, man.
Yeah.
You better be careful.
You go to the wrong place. Yep.
Yeah, you better be careful coming through here. No, I love the undercity adventuring. There's always stuff down in the sewers. Who knows what you've been thrown down there and grown, right? So
yep,
that's cool. Let me go to another one of yours here, and that's this Cobalt Caves.
Oh yeah, okay, it's an older one.
Oh, it's an older one. I'm sorry. Okay, there you go. I'm just trying to figure out the order. Yeah.
No, that's fine. This is another example of this was drawn on a big piece of white paper, and then all the lines and everything else were put in later as far as the grid goes.
Okay.
But
you got nice elevation going now, so you got that 3D aspect going.
Yeah.
That was my first attempt to kind of do a tunnel that goes under a tunnel, so to speak.
It's good.
So it was a lot of fun doing this one.
And he also looks very like limestone cave-ish or something like that. So yeah.
This one appears.
I love cave systems, because somebody's sort of saying he loves sewers, and sewers are cool. I feel like fences are cool. But I love cave systems, because proper cave systems are multi-dimensional. You know, they're not just flat. The floor's uneven. They've got pools. They've got drops. They're so cool.
Yeah.
So this,
but I think fantasy sewers are not square, because I don't think most fantasy cities don't have square blocks like American cities,
unless they're made by the Masons.
like
DC. Which is,
this map looks insane.
Yeah, this is.
You know what? This is a good example of where, see how I put the rocks blowing out the walls, you know, and I didn't keep the outline of the room. I intentionally wanted everything falling into the room that way.
Yep. And it's cool. Yep.
I think this one is actually, I drew this entire thing digitally. Yep.
Well, I like this one because you got a lot going on here. A lot of different. You got a mix of some rough hewn over on the right side with standard, and you got this. I love this here. This some kind of trap set up, down, and figuring out how to get into this area. I mean, I'm assuming this is the entrance, right? So and then
in the front there, yeah. But if you look over to the right, the entire right side of the dungeon, there's no way to get into it. So I had to create a way to get in there, but I won't give it away. You can actually see it. But when I drew this, I'm like, how the hell are you going to get down there?
Right.
And I fixed it, but it's easy to spot if you look around.
Oh, so you had to fix that afterwards?
Well, yeah. After I finished it, I'm like, there's no way to get to any of this.
Well, there's always teleport or something, but
teleports. That's what the teleports will save you. Yep.
The wonders of the teleporter pad, right?
Yep.
It's very, very cool. All right, listen. Let me crank up here with some of yours here.
That was a damn sexy map there, Ted. That was a nice one.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right, let me go to this. Let me go to dungeon maps here, and where
I have to tell everybody who doesn't know me that this is the type of map I'm least qualified to talk about, if you haven't figured that out yet. So to speak.
Simple but effective.
Oh, look at this!
Very effective.
So beautiful. Yep.
So really, talking about experimentation, this was an experimentation in wall fill. Trying to get something a little bit different going on. So it's our pebble approach, Ted, but kind of on steroids.
I like that. I like how it's it looks not man-made but creature-made, so to speak, and but it's still organized in a way that makes sense.
Yeah. Is this done in black and white first and then colored afterwards, or did you color?
That's every way that I do it is black and white and then coloring. Yeah.
This kind of reminds me of, because it's kind of tight, reminds me of a lot of the underground cellars and stuff that were in the Revolutionary War. There's so many old buildings where I live in the Philly area, out in the hills outside, down that way in Philadelphia. They had these. A lot of them were, defenses against the Native Americans, or that's where they stored stuff, and the cool, and that's kind of got the feel for it. What this is, and they could go on long ways, and they would connect to a water source as well. So it's pretty neat, really neat on that. I
really like the texture in the background too. It's kind of subtle, but it's it really works with all this. Great shot.
Yeah, there was a series of maps that I did. Oh, we're going to talk about this one, but there was a series of maps that I did for the frogs where just went for a completely different, just a textured background. Instead of just white, not full on black, not full on white, just almost an abstract painting type of deal. Splash of color, just walk away. Okay, so this map. So let's talk about isometric for a little bit before we hit the end of the show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's lead in with this. Now, this is by I did not draw this map. I want to be very, very clear. I commissioned this map by a guy. I think it's a guy called DX Spec. And I'm almost certainly mispronouncing his or her name. DJEKSPEK. And he or she is on DeviantArt. I found them on DeviantArt a long time ago. And this is my only published module that I have released. And I wanted... I just went nuts. When you start actually putting together your first module for the first time, you start pulling in every artist you can. And I found this person on the Cartographers Guild, and I'm like, do me a map, because I love this style. I do isometric myself. I can't do it like this. This is primo quality.
Yeah.
This is top quality.
I like how the numbers look like they're floating.
Yeah.
Right. I'm actually not a fan of isometric maps. I'm just going to put that out there right now. Because I think a lot of the time you can't tell what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
And the audience for the map is the GM. You're not showing the players 99% of the time. So so it's meant to be informational, in my humble opinion. As a GM, I need to know where the players are at, how they're getting around, what they're looking at. And an isometric map looks beautiful. People absolutely adore them. They upvote them. But in practicality, from a GM's perspective, they're the worst. What I love about DX Spec, and again, I'm mispronouncing that without a doubt, is look how the walls are cut away.
Yeah.
And it's obvious that they're cut away. Even arches are cut away. Pillars are cut away. And it's clear. It's obvious. You don't think it's a hole in the wall. It's not. This, to me, is how isometric should be done.
Yep.
Because it's very, very clear. I mean, even like there's a room near the top there. Well, actually, all of the rooms to the north, there's no wall blocking the room beyond because he's cut it away.
Right.
This is a beautiful example of isometrics in me. He is, if it's a he, the leading artist for isometric maps as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I think there is a good use for isometric. If you use it a combination, you should, if you have like a top-down big VTT map or dungeon map of something that is complex, that have different levels or whatever, you could put in like a quarter scale isometric on the side to kind of show it so the DM can really get the feel for how things are related in 3D, so to speak. I think that's a brilliant use of isometric to kind of as a guide to quickly, you can get a grip on it. The same thing goes with terrain, to have like isometric terrain and then have a top-down terrain map. And then you have an isometric in a smaller version.
Yeah, you need
just
to top
to
down
show
if you're VTT, right?
Exactly, you need to top down. But there is
awesome.
a remedy for that in the future too. We're going to talk about that later.
Really?
Yeah. Oh yes. Yeah.
All right. Well, we better get to that because we are cranking up here. And then I have this one. This is another one.
Okay, so this is about the same DX spec, also isometric. This is the same. The dungeon we just saw is actually down the well shaft in the middle of this ruined keep. I think this is actually a good application of isometric myself, because I described the keep. I drew a top-down view of the keep, and I think all of that works. In fact, I ended up printing it full battle map scale because, as we spoke about earlier, but this, I think, gives a really good sense of the ruin and the tower destruction and the towers that are intact and so on and so forth, and where the gaps are in the walls. I know this, to me, this is almost like having an illustration to go alongside the top down. You know,
that's where I think they shine. That's where isometric really fulfills a good.
And that's why I commissioned this, right?
Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. It should not be the sole map, but it should be the companion illustration or map to kind of show it, so you get the third dimension really presented quick and easy.
Awesome. Now I'm going to ask my question that I've been saving, if you don't mind,
okay.
to all of you. What do you think of this classic map?
This is the type of map that I think are basically useless.
Okay. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, it's one of these big of the Underdark or
it's the D1 through 3 Underdark map.
Yeah. I know it's from one of the because what you could almost, this is what I call an Excel map.
Okay. Because
what you could do is you could simply have dots and then just have a text saying how many miles or the distance between things. Meaning it's something that is almost more effective to have dots and a flow chart and simply say you have this area here and then you have 6 hours of walk through tunnels to the next one, so to speak. You can almost do it quicker and more effective in a flow chart.
How many miles
you have the hex.
Each hex is like 10
exactly.
miles.
It takes
so.
longer.
Crazy.
Yeah, it takes longer to figure out and count the hexes than it would be to use a flow chart where you just had the text.
Oh, one hex is 1 mile underground.
Yeah,
that's it.
Still, it's like 100 miles.
Yeah,
oh, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but do a flowchart map would be like the subway system or something like that. A map that works like the subway system or train maps to use that version of it, so to speak.
I was just curious what you'd say about it.
Yeah. So to me, it's kind of it's the wrong approach. Meaning it's not stylistically beautiful. It's supposed to be informational. If it's only informational, there's a better way of doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's my take on it. Yeah.
Very, very cool. All right, so I guess you, Annie, you want to talk about while we have some time here about tools, right?
We have a little bit of I thought we should when we have a specialized show, we should talk a little bit about how to get into doing what we've seen here, so to speak. So we have
minutes,
so we have all we've looked at all the different styles and stuff. So what you need, and first of all, I need to Ted and Alyssa, you work in physical and have done and done on Scribble on paper and pencil and pen and stuff. So please indulge us a little bit in the physical if you want to go that way.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, sure. I use mostly Tombos, which is a good quality pen that doesn't smear, doesn't smudge, and it dries fast. Once the ink gets on the paper, it doesn't, within a few seconds it's set.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can get some pens that are they look nice, but they don't dry as quick. And then you can destroy your map if you just move your hand across it, if you do it the wrong way. But, and then I use that ruler. I should have actually looked it up. I have no idea. It's like a big plastic ruler. It's like this wide, and then it's see-through. And one edge has a piece of metal down the side, and it's got 1/4 inch increments going across it. So you can draw a line and then literally move this and then draw the next line, move it, draw the next line. And they all stay lined together perfectly. So that way you can draw the outline.
So it's almost a little mini T-square with inside it?
Well, it's got a grid. It has a whole grid on it.
It's grid.
On the ruler itself. Yeah.
Okay.
So then I just use that for but the downside of that is I can only really do 1/4 inch grid. But I'm more like, I do hybrid stuff now, though. I'll draw something. Sometimes I'll draw it digitally, print it out. So I did a map today. I drew the basis for it, printed it out, took it, drew the rest on there, and then I threw it back in Photoshop and played with it some more. So
when you draw like that, how big are the squares? You don't draw the miniature style with 1 inch squares? You draw them much smaller?
Well, it could be any size. And if I'm drawing without a grid, like on just a white piece of paper, like if I have the Cobalt Den, that takes up a whole piece of paper, but you can get more detail in because you're drawing bigger. And then I just kind of rough in.
So it's if you use the bigger the dungeon, the less detailed, because they need to fit on the paper.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's ridiculous I tried that before, to put like doorknobs and everything into a huge dungeon. It just doesn't translate somehow. Everything gets lost. So it's kind of like when we talked about the rocks. When you draw a boulder, and I tried doing all kinds of really cool edging and stuff on it, it just looks cluttered. I look better with just a plain white round shape, because it's a boulder.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's old school. Cool.
And I'm big on making templates too. Like I have an entire grid that's electronic, so I can take that grid in and push it into a document that I can work on, and all the lines are there, but I hardly ever use them. I'll like draw over them and then print it out, and then I'll draw my own lines, so it's really light colored gray lines that are in my grid.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I found the tactile box. Here is the tactile box, and they look like this. So they put them together, and then you can just
those are cool.
Yeah, they're really, and they are a special surface for dry erase markers. So they're really good for dry erase markers. Yeah, so I have like 24 of these, and it's
more than enough
awesome
for taking to a convention.
Oh yeah, you can cover a really big game table. That you can cover roughly your game table with all these. So it's a wonderful invention. And a gaming paper has a thick cardboard version of these that are fantastic. They don't cost that much. So if you screw up, you can buy new ones. So they're great.
Alyssa, any tools of the trade you want to share or discuss?
I used to do ink on paper, much like Ted, but I've moved away from it, and I'm just all digital now. I personally use a Cintiq 24-inch HD Touch and Photoshop, but you don't have to. I got asked recently to make some tablet recommendations because someone was going to start drawing themselves. And just looking through the options, even ones that are standalone and not plugging into a computer, the prices are reasonable, and you can draw on them, and you can actually get free software such as GIMP. And there's actually some really good pieces of software. Anna and I are going to talk about software in the future and some tools.
Well, yeah, I have a little bit of a list for Dunyan specific, but if you want to use like Photoshop, GIMP or something, then you need a Wacom tablet and with a pen to draw, because draw with a mouse, forget it. It's not going to happen. I think the cheapest ones cost like just under $100 or about $99, but the good ones
with my touchpad sometimes, my finger.
Yeah, that works probably better. Yeah, but they cost a Wacom something new cost about
they're not
$200 or 180 or about $200. But if you want to do it, if you want to use it regularly, it's worth its weight in gold, so to speak. So it's I have both a Wacom thing that you draw on this tablet, and then I look at the screen. I also have a small, I don't have the big fancy that Alyssa had, but I have a smaller 16-inch screen that I can draw on the screen itself, a Wacom as well. So for certain, if you want to sit there, I can put it in my lap and just sit and draw. That can need at times.
Select Strikers asked, any vector graphics or just Photoshop and GIMP?
Well, for me, I love to use Photoshop, and sometimes I use some other tool. I use Art Rage is another one that is more like painting with pencils and stuff like that. I love that too. But then you have the dedicated tools, and they are starting to get cool, so to speak, and really good. And the old classic is Pro Fantasy, a British company. They done the campaign cartographer. They were the first one, started back in the early 90s to come out with the first versions of their Overland. And they have the Dunyan Designer, I think it's the third version now. And the problem for me is that it's basically a CAD software that they built in a lot of cool effects. So Fantasy or Dunyan Designer and Fantasy, Pro Fantasy's products are super cool, but they have you need to like the CAD workflow, because they're not a painting, not an artistic software. If you come from the painty artistic side of things or like to doodle, it's not a doodle software. It's more like you have a recipe, you do the settings, and then you click around. That's something you can use the mouse. You don't need a Wacom tablet for Pro Fantasy. And then you click around, and then you press some sort of key, and voila, the magic happens. And so you can make really cool, good, fantastic looking maps, but it requires a certain workflow that you need to follow that, so to speak. So excellent. And it costs a bit of money and to buy all the assets and stuff for it, so to speak. Otherwise, you need to develop them yourself. But if you want to invest a hefty bit of money, you can make absolutely awesome professional maps with their tools. Definitely, no doubt about it. I've seen lots of people that are professional in this business that work with Pro Fantasy tools, so they're good, but they're a little bit on the expensive side. And then you have another cool other type of tool that is called Dave's Mapper. It's just a website that has a lot of other people's Dunyan doodles, so to speak, in various styles. And you just go there and you can just simply draw them or just press the random and it just messes up, or you can choose the style. And it has some things looks like Dyson, something looks like old school, something blue, and something are just pencil, whatever. And then you can just create some mishmash of things that can look really cool, so to speak. So it's an interesting take on it. If you don't want to draw anything and you just want to mess around a little bit, you can get something in 5 minutes, and it works, so to speak. So it's an interesting approach on that one. And then we have one that I kind of liked, and I sponsored the Kickstarter, and done by three people that call 3 Minds Software, and their tool is called Otherworld Mapper. You can map outdoors and overland, and it's basically a simpler version of like the Pro Fantasy tools, but simpler. And it is a good hybrid between the vector approach of the Pro Fantasy tools and the doodly. So it has some vector functions and some doodle functions. I think it's a really good, but it's early stages. They're in version 1. It costs like $50 or $40, much cheaper than the other ones. It's a one-time deal, and you get a whole bunch of stuff. So if you want to get a fairly cheap tool that is very versatile, but not super complicated to learn. So I think that's a good option, Otherworld Mapper. And then we have another one that has been on the radar for a few years. It's called, they started with a tool called Wonder Draft for outdoors maps. It's a super cool tool. They have one that is called Dungeon Draft, and it's a good one. It's a really good one. It's not that super expensive, and you can do some really cool stuff with it. So it's also not a web browser thing. It runs on your computer, which makes it much more powerful. Same thing with Otherworld Mapper. It's also run, and the Dungeon Designer 3. They are all run on native, so to speak. So they're good. Dave's Mapper is just a little goofy website that is kind of cool. And then we have one of these professional, super awesome tools that are a bit expensive and cool, and that's called Incarnate. And it's a company in Orange County. They are across the hills from me, so to speak. And I've talked to them a little bit when they had this up and running. And these are a bunch of people that I think worked for Blizzard before. Because if you looked at Diablo and stuff, you can see it's some of the artists that worked on video games. They made a tool that runs, and it's an awesome tool. The problem is that it's not to create your own style. It's to take their styles and make awesome looking maps using their props. So if you like the styles in Incarnate, it's a dream come true. If you don't like the maps looking like Incarnate, it's not the tool for you. So it's limited but awesome. I would say that's my general idea of using it, testing it out a little bit. That's one of my hobbies. I basically buy a license for every tool because I want to have tools like this, and then I don't use them. And some of the tools I'm actually being given because people want me to use their software and they want me to promote it and stuff.
I think
so,
in a future show we're just going to have you guys messing around with some of them. Hopefully.
Oh yeah, we need to show some of them in future shows.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. And then we have one that is kind of, hang on a second, I need to see if I can go to that website. It's called Hobite. It's one that can make beautiful looking maps in an interesting way. It's called Hobite. So I'm going to put the it might be hard to find, and I'm not sure.
HOBBYTE.net.
Yeah, I put the link in chat there. So yeah. So this one it can do isometric maps. So it is it's a very interesting one, so to speak. It's a kind of a cool novel approach. That's why I wanted to mention it, because it can do isometric maps in a weird kind of quirky, cool way, so to speak. So I've never used it, so I don't know. But it's kind of cool and artistic in some way. So I wanted to mention it because it's kind of sticks out to be different. And then we have now them Incarnate, and then we have one other that is, I would say, the professional level, so to speak, and that's Dungeon Fog. And Dungeon Fog I've used from time to time, and I have a professional license for, and I've used it a little bit now and then. It's a super cool tool. It costs, I think the regular license is about $50-$60 a year, but you pay per month or per year. So when the commercial, if you want to sell and earn money on it, it's $100 a year. Or $99 a year. So it's kind of funny. They charged me today for the year.
Zing.
So it was kind of, so I got reminded of the price. But it's interesting. Dungeon Fog is still only a browser, but they're working on a Windows Mac client. And so it's it's my problem that is a browser based, because that limits the functionality a little bit, and you need a hefty computer and so on. But the cool thing is it comes with tons of assets, and assets, if you when you subscribe to it, there is a new asset pack every month, and you get tons and tons of assets. You want a banana peel or dragon head on the wall or bear skin or whatever it is, it's there. And so it's super cool. The result is, yeah, I would say it looks a little bit dull. So you often need to boost it in Photoshop afterwards if you want it to really pop, so to speak. But if you just want decent to good looking to great looking Dungeon maps on mass for your games, Dungeon Fog is cool. Invest 100 hours into learning it, and damn, you can crank out almost professional looking maps in record time. So it's a good tool that way, but it's on the expensive side. And then there's two other tools we need to talk about for 10 minutes that I think are the future.
How about 5, Anna?
Okay, 5
I'll give you 5.
Yeah, 5 minutes for future. And one of them is, a lot of you viewers have watched Blue Box, and he is sponsoring and kind of shouting out for Tailspire a lot. And there is the new kind of tools for Dungeon maps that are basically video game tools. So you get a full 3D environment that you can place your miniatures and stuff in, virtual miniatures in, and you can build a 3D dungeon, and you can move around, and you can look from any angle and stuff like that. So it's basically you're using video game technology, game engines, and you can produce. And that's where I think Dungeon maps will be in not that many years. It's like miniatures in a computerized form, so to speak.
So Tailspire, by the way, for the fundraiser tomorrow, which I'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
The game that John is DMing, it's the Tailspire executives.
Yep.
And they're going to use all Tailspire for this game tomorrow.
Yeah.
So they're part
it's
of the
a really
St.
cool
fundraiser.
Tool.
Yeah. So.
Yep. And there is one other competitor that is, I think, really cool for one other reason, that competitor to Tailspire in the 3D arena, and that is Dungeon Alchemist. And they had a very successful Kickstarter a few months ago, and they are basically the same idea as Tailspire, but they've taken it one step further that I think is really interesting. I don't know how well it works because it's not out yet. We've only seen this kind of awesome looking videos, so we'll see. But if it works, then it's awesome. And what they've done is that they have used AI, so you can simply tell that you need an inn, and then you just draw the basic shape of the inn, and voila, the computer will put furniture and food on the tables and whatever. And you can have a slider where you simply tell it, I want it to look more scruffy, or I want it to look more beautiful, and so on. You can simply have the dirtiness level or whatever, and the computer will just crank it up and down and make it look fantastic and different styles. If that works half as well as advertised, I think we look at the future. So I think Tailspire and Dungeon Alchemist both are in on a little bit of what is coming for the future. Yeah, because you can make cool things that you can, it's basically like having a virtual version of Dungeon Forge or all the cool tools that Jay have in his basement that you can play with unlimited amount of. So I think that is kind of the future for I would say new school games then. So
awesome.
So that was a quick overview of the tools to draw dungeons. So yeah.
So
and I'll pop the links to all the things that I've talked to.
That's a lot. I mean, we covered a lot of these.
Yeah. So I popped the links to all of them here, so you can.
I know we're over time here, so let's hit some.
I have one more I want to show when I talk about my shout outs.
Okay, sounds good.
Yep.
So Ted, I got to step out for 30 seconds. Ted, why don't you just tell us what's going on, what you're doing, and then Alyssa, hand off to Alyssa. I should be back by then. Son call.
Sure.
All right, be right back.
Well, primarily now, I still do my maps for kind of a form of therapy. It's just a hand-eye coordination type of thing, and I'm actually thinking of getting back into drawing with pens a lot more.
Yeah.
Because I say that, but then I know when I bring the maps in, like the numbers, because I like to number my maps. it's just so much easier to do in Photoshop to have a text box. You can do a number 1, number 2, and it looks nice and clean. So there's certain aspects of that I'm probably always going to do digitally. But as far as the stippling, I miss doing it. I miss actually creating with my hands instead of doing my finger or like a Wacom that I have. But I think I'm gonna get into those a little bit more. And then I still do the blue maps too, because I just think they look really cool. And I can do a black and white version of that too, but that's generally the ones that go to print, because they print a hell of a lot nicer, because you've got the same color in there and the same tonalities, and you can't really control that with a pen.
Yeah.
So for some commission work, I like to offer both. I say I can do a hand-drawn one, or I can do a digital one. And digital ones can be really complex, or they can be really simple, like the blue maps. But it's fun to do all of those. So, okay, that's me. What are you up to, Alyssa?
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Oh, your sound's
You're muted. You're muted.
I had my mic turned off. Foghat Games are releasing their Necropolis on Kickstarter here imminently, like in the next week or so. So you're going to see a lot more of me talking about that, because I did the big bad boss dungeon at the end, the 60 inches by 90 inches. So you'll see a lot of that going on. I'm working on revamping an old map that I did from 30 years ago in modern digital tools. It's a 6-tier between cliff faces, high fantasy map with spanning bridges and that type of thing.
Wow.
And I'm on YouTube each week drawing on that. I'm working on 2 Chaosium maps behind the scenes, but I can't tell you about them or show you anything about them. Oh, and I'm working on the cosmology of role-playing, which I intend to take to GaryCon next year. I did for Gygax magazine #1, the cosmology map for that one.
Oh, so
and
cool.
It basically accompanied an article which was talking about almost TSR being the Big Bang type of theory, and kind of spanning out year by year by year, and had game worlds kind of coming out from that. It's a beautiful map. It came out really, really well. I'm doing the 2021 version, and it's going to have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games on it. It's easily 4, 5, 8 times larger. It's a huge map. It's going to be poster sized, and I'm endeavoring to have every RPG that has ever been released through to current on it.
Oh my God.
It's daunting. There's a lot of labels on it. I'm only up to C as a letter right now. They got distracted and started putting all of the Chaosium ones on now.
Yeah.
It's going to take me a while, but I think it's going to be absolutely freaking beautiful, and you're going to want it on your game wall. You're going to want it, because it's going to be freaking fantastic. That's what I'm working on.
Oh, so cool. Yep.
What about you, Anna? What are you up to?
Okay, so first I can mention that Gryffindor Games have a Kickstarter that has 11 hours to go, and I'll post the link. And I have a set of maps that are from the plains of Arcadia, a hex scroll that I'm working on. So that's a commission I'm working on right now. So that is, I can't show. I've shown a little bit on the first one. There, you can go to that page. There's a couple of little screenshots on that page and those are not the finished. Those are just early concept ideas that are cranked out very quickly. So they are not the final thing, but it's basically an idea of how to do a hex scroll using real 3D maps. So that is my maps are a big part of that Kickstarter. They're almost 200% funded right now, so they might reach the 192% or 95% or something like that. So hopefully they can make it to 200% by by tonight or tomorrow morning. So that is going on, and I'm also launching a new, my patrons know about this because I posted a few days ago and I got a lot of good feedback. So I thought that people wouldn't like it much. A new line of Greyhawk maps, and we're talking about going back to hand-drawn kind of. So I realized that a lot of people, I won't player handout maps and simple maps instead of the satellite view. So, and Sam Wood did a lot of did some cool maps that are in Adventure Begins and in the From the Ashes. And I liked his style so much. So I thought that, maybe I should do a style of maps that are inspired by him. And so I sat down and doodled in Photoshop and just like see what I could come up with, because that's not something I've done before.
Oh.
And after a day or a couple of days of doodling, I figured out, okay, this is probably how I want to do them. And then I did one test map and I showed them, and I don't think it looks that beautiful or anything that way. It's not nothing remarkable, but it's kind of cool. And Jay, you have them in Discord and Dropbox and stuff. So yeah. Otherwise, I can show them. So yeah. It's in the Fantasy Mapping Show Discord, or it's in Dropbox, in my folder in Dropbox.
My Discord's on my laptop now, not on my main machine.
Damn! You don't. You.
I can't have everything on the main machine, or
I thought you streamed to the internet, so you're not connected to them. Hang on a sec. I can show it on my screen if you want to. Yeah.
But remember, we have a problem with that.
Oh yeah. Okay.
We can't people watch. Because we got three
that's
on here,
true.
not two.
Yeah. That's true.
Yes, you like that? It's like, woo!
We have
set for two.
We have an issue with
three.
that. That's true. It's just set for 2. So yeah, so we can't do that. Yeah. So
where is it? Screwed. Where are they?
They're in Dropbox, in my folder in Dropbox, and in Animaps in the Dropbox share.
Okay, it's going to take me about 5 minutes to find them.
Okay, okay. Then I'll talk about the other stuff in the meantime here. So yeah, so I have I'm working on I did the ice cover map. I'm going to redo the colors of that one, because there was some misconception of the colors. So the ice cap of the Earth project is continuing. So the ice caps version 1 came out, and there will be an update, a general Earth update with the ice maps, and a new version of the ice maps coming. Plus there will be a hot Earth and a cold Earth coming too very soon. Those are almost done. So that there are coming. So people who want to look into running Ice Age Earth and hot Earth can, and they're kind of interesting. They open up some interesting possibilities. So they're coming. And my Shieldlands maps are progressing. So I've almost done with the first bit, and the second bit is underway. The second, third, and the fourth bits are underway. So there's 1,000 over 1,000 square meters.
What folder?
My folder in the Anna maps is in there.
Isn't that coming up under shared? I can't find it.
Okay.
It should be coming up.
Or either that, or I put it in Discord as well.
Yeah, I can't get to Discord.
Okay,
If I pull, here we go. If I crash the stream, everyone, I apologize, but I'm going to try and pull them out of Discord. I'm going to close my Discord on here. Here we go.
Okay, but because they're in my folder. And
I can't find your folder for some reason right now. And it's going to take me a while. So let me just open up the Discord on this machine. If it crashes everything, so be it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Fantasy mapping.
Yep.
That map. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. This I can do. One map I can do here.
And it's not that big. It's only a couple of megs, so it's not. It's not
500 megs here.
No. It's just a couple of megs, so it's a very small map.
I got it. That should work. We should be able to do this.
Yeah. Good.
All right. Hold on 1 sec.
I have a familiar that comes here
and then
too.
we'll do that, and then boom. This right. We got this.
Yep. There you go.
Okay,
there you got it. Yep. So that is my homage to the
Discord. You're good. We're good. It's your homage to
the map that was done in Adventure Begins and stuff. I'm going to grab it here.
On Adventure Begins.
Yeah, in the Adventure Begins here.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. All right, 2.5. Yeah. Roger Moore.
Yeah.
Roger Moore 2.5.
Yeah, so this one is done by, hang on a second here. So I'm saying it right here.
But that's a Roger Moore publication.
Yeah, so this one is Sam Wood. So Sam Wood did,
Okay,
did
so you did
this
the
map,
homage set. All right,
and
that's
I
cool.
really like this map. So the style, so to speak. So I made an homage to it, and it's
awesome.
simpler than his map, and it needs to be quick and dirty because I can't spend another 5 years of doing Greyhawk in this style. This needs to be effective, so to speak. So I can. So it's basically done using the same technique that I do my quick and dirty maps for my players, dungeon maps. So this is, and I'm going to, in one later show, I can actually show how this is done. But I'm going to run on YouTube stream. I think it will be YouTube that I will stream. So I can actually do this work in real time so you can see how this is done. So I'm going to explain it because it's not that difficult.
And if people don't know, this is the greater Greyhawk area right here. Right.
Yeah.
You may not put 2 and 2 together, but that's the Miss Marsh you see to the right, and you got the Gnarly to the left.
Yep.
Right.
New Dube top and Woolly Bay.
Yeah. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Definitely.
Yep. So this is going to be as a companion to the more satellite accurate DM reference map. So you can just have this to doodle on, and for the players, if you want to say that, or they buy a map of the Greyhawk area, then you can hand this out to them so they can kind of look, because it gives the very rough details, so to speak. Not and this one will be coming for every area. I'm doing the Shield End area right now. So, and these are quick and dirty, so they don't take that many hours to do.
Yeah,
they're fairly quick, and they're kind of cool because they fill a different purpose from those super accurate, super detailed satellite like ones.
It's cool to have. It's cool
in
a different sort of way to have that.
Yep. So that is, and then all the other projects that we talked about before, they're underway. So I probably have about 5 different projects. I go a little bit in between. The good thing is that if you're bored doing one thing, then you can just shift and do the other thing. So I don't want to have only one project, because then I get too distracted, or if I sit and doodle in Photoshop more than 6 hours, then my shoulder goes numb or whatever. So I need to have a little bit of different things to do 3D, and sometimes I want to do 3D programming, and then my brain get fried after a couple of days, and then I want my Photoshop doodling, so to speak. So that's back and forth. So this is what I wanted to show today, but there's more coming in this genre as well. So yeah.
Real quick, tomorrow night's big.
Yep.
All right. So tomorrow night, the finale of our fundraiser. Please, if you can, if you're able to, watch, and if you can donate on Tiltify, please do. If you can't, that's understandable. So I got Luke Gygax, the 3 gentlemen from Paizo that have, for the Paizo Hawk area of Greyhawk, Anna, Stella Luna, and Chuck from Choller Games, all playing in this game, playing Gargoyle. Man, it's been tough for me to figure out how to run this in 4 hours and not poke my eyes out. All right, I'm just being honest. I'm going to do my best tomorrow for this bad adventure. It's not spectacular. We changed it from bad because we didn't want to get Skip Williams upset. But it's the not spectacular old school adventure fundraiser tomorrow, and that starts at 6 p.m. Eastern, and it goes to whenever we're done, and that'll be a fun time for everyone. And finally, the last thing I'm going to talk about real quick, and then we'll do the giveaways and call it a night, is the Gabbin Sunday night Women of D&D Greyhawk. It's a DM's roundtable. It's the 8th one I've done on our Gabbin talk show. So we have Anna, we have Sidwey from Ann from Nightheart Gaming, we have DM Mandy from Praetor's Rejects, we have Kayla, Tom Zor's wife, as long as her flight gets back in time. And Nikki Nerds Out, brand new to the community, and we're going to talk about challenges and things that ladies and women would come across with being a DM or involved in the D&D community. I think it'll be a very interesting discussion, and then, like I said, it'll be our 8th roundtable on Gabbin number 155 Sunday. That'll finish 5 straight streams in 5 nights, as this is number 3 right here. So, thank you, Tom. Thanks for coming. I hope you had fun.
Yeah.
Awesome to hear.
Yeah, awesome to
Please,
have you here, Ted.
If you haven't, Patreon, all 3. Let me go back to the main screen here. Hit everyone up with a Patreon. I know we running a little late here, but let me Patreons are all for all 3. Once again, one more time, shout it out. There you go. And let's do the giveaways. First person I pick, you get your choice. Troller Games or Frog God. Second one gets the other one. They're both $25. 3 down 2. Yeah, 3 down 2 to go, man. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's like, you know what? And all that craziness. And all that craziness to get Anna's thing up and going.
It's me. I'm late. I didn't have things ready a couple of days.
No, it's okay.
Before,
I closed out my Streamlabs. Now I got to get that back open. And here we go. All right, here we go. Closing out the giveaways. Hey, Jose, good to see you, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all the awesome comments in chat today and stuff. It's fantastic. So thank you everyone for watching this nerdy.
Thanks, Pex. Yeah, absolutely. We are cranking in followers. I mean, we're almost up to 5,700. It's crazy. Thank you so very much for that. And I'm closing it out here. And here we go. The winner is Jim Seguia. Jim, your choice. Your choice, Jim. What do you want? You want Frog God or do you want Troll Lord? And it won't. Don't worry, it's not a competition. So whichever one you know, it's okay. There's no bragging rights between the two. Jim. I'm assuming he's on. Let me check in here. He should be. He's on. All right, Jim. If Jim does not state anything, then the person I'm going to draw now is going to get the choice first. Celtic Boar 13. There you go. There are 2 winners. So last call, Celtic Boar 13. You're on too. I know. I see you both on. So Celtic, you can pick first if you're. You can jump ahead. If not, I'm going to have you guys fight over it, but you're both on, which is good. So, sometimes you go into lurk mode, and I understand that. And you guys are both subs, so I have no problem with it. So they're the 2 winners, and congrats to everyone. Jim and Celtic, I'll have to get on first come, first serve to contact me to who gets what. So, all right. Wow, that's the first time we have neither of them responded, so I get to slap them around a little bit. So we're gonna
there's subscribers. So
they're both. There you go, Frog God to Celtic. There you go. Awesome, man. And Jim gets a TLG one. Yep. I will get them over to you within the next half hour. Both of these, I have the codes and all. Awesome. Thank you both very much. Oh, thank you, Alyssa. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Tom. Do you prefer Mr. Uram or Tom? Thanks. What a great show. Thank you for the discussion on dungeon mapping. We'll be back in a month for our next topic. Anna, Alyssa, and I will.
Yeah, we haven't decided yet, so we'll pick something.
We don't know what we're doing next Wednesday yet, Anna.
Exactly. We don't even know what we're doing
Legends and Lore
next week. So
yeah. Thank you so very much. We're going to raid it. Yep. I think Nightheart Gaming's got I think Ann is DMing right now, and I want to get into Ann's game because she's going to be on the talk show on Sunday night. So I'm going to raid right into her right now.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you. Maximum Maiden, Jess. My brain is fried at this time. Rob Phantom is starting off the fundraiser tomorrow morning on Blue Box. One last thing. I hit the wrong button. Sorry. Blue Box.
There you go. Yep.
Hit up Blue Box. See Phantom tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, and then we run through the night, 3 streams for it, and we'll see you all soon. And let me get to my exit screen. All right, raiding into Nightheart Gaming. Whew. I'm running on fumes.
Yeah.
That's okay. We're good. Nightheart in. Yep. Maximum Maidens is on, so that'll be good. See if we can get over 50 easily. Yeah, there we go. 60? Close. That's good. 5, 4, 3. I need sleep, don't I? Yeah, for tomorrow. Have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Raiding in. Nice. Make sure the raid worked.